But I think, do we need to officially call this to session or something like that?
Yes.
Well, who said yes?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, so we have to officially call this meeting to session, and then we'll go a little bit of an overview of sort of what to expect today, because especially for those who've been here before, might be just a little bit different than it's been in the past. And so if the clerk can call the roll, or do you want me to?
It's the chair.
Okay, then I will. Cameron, are you here?
Here.
Hey, Cameron's here. Courtney, are you here?
Here.
Hey, Eddie, are you here?
Here.
This is strange. Nordy, are you here?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Here.
And
Here.
all right, so we're all here, which means that we can get started. So the goal today is just to give you all a little bit of an opportunity to present just a little bit more to us. We had just a handful of questions, I think, for each of the organizations that we invited in, just to give an opportunity to provide some clarification so that we can better give us opportunities to give you money is the hope here. And I think we have an order of presentation somewhere. Are you just going to call it out in time?
Okay.
Okay, let's do it that way. We're starting, it's at 6:05, and so we have about 10 minutes. If you could, spend the first couple minutes just maybe presenting, tell us the question specifically that we asked, and then we'll have some follow-ups, and we'll try to keep to about 10 minutes. Sound good? Hooray! Who's first then?
Amethyst House.
Yay, so Amethyst House is first. You want to come on?
Where would you like me?
Ideally, somewhere at the table, sit next to me, whatever you'd like.
Stand up
I
and
could
move.
just stand here.
Sorry that the room's a little
I'm
small.
Steve Fitzgerald with Amethyst House. We've been 45 years in Bloomington treating residents in long-term treatment and outpatient services for addiction problems. I personally have watched the case managers help people build lives that they don't feel like they have to escape from, which is the whole point. I don't do the holy work, I just take care of the facilities. So I'm here hopefully to help with any questions you guys
That's
might
also the holy work.
have. on a very low scale, maybe. The three projects that we're asking for help with, we have two homes, one for women residents, one for men residents. The women's house is on West 2nd Street, directly across from the main entrance of the new Hopewell community. So we want to be good neighbors. We want to keep the exterior of the building up to good presentation. It's an old house dating back to the turn of the last century, and it's historically significant, so we have to be careful about what we do with the exterior. It has the original pine lap siding that is starting to deteriorate in places. And there are products where we could use to harden the softened wood and replace gaps in the wood before we prime it, scrape it, and give it a good paint job. So it needs it anyway, the community needs it. What's the next project we have? In the men's house, it's been probably 20 years since the dorms have been painted, and it's getting kind of dingy, so we'd like to upgrade that a little bit. Last year at the men's house, we had a tree that we're concerned about, and it didn't make the cut, but it's kind of raised in urgency. It's an old mulberry tree past its prime, and it's above a new roof now. We replaced the roof last fall, so I would really like to see that getting taken care of before we damage our new shingles.
Excellent. Thank you.
That's about all I have for you. Any
Excellent.
questions?
Thank you so much. Questions from the committee?
I mean, my only question was going to be about urgency, but it sounds like the tree is an urgent situation.
Yeah, it has increased in urgency since the last time I was here.
I had a quick question. Last year we funded, I think, some doors. Is that correct, for the women's house? Is that right?
Some windows, and
Windows,
thank you
yeah.
for that. Yeah, it's still an ongoing project, rehabilitating the original windows. It's a process where a carpenter takes the whole sash out, takes it to his shop, rebuilds it, and then reinstalls it. And it's still ongoing. It's probably halfway through right now. And that's been a big improvement, both in the efficiency and the look of the house.
Fantastic. Any other questions from the committee? No questions? All right. Well, trying to make good time, apparently. Thank you so much.
On a personal note, thank you for what you're doing here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Um, you can call the next one,
All right.
Mr. Roll.
Next up, we have the Avalon Community Land Trust Collaborative Application.
Yay!
At the risk of being a bit more formal.
Thank you. There's
take a seat.
it. We can bring chairs there too if you.
Hello, I'm Hugh Farrell. I'm the board president for Avalon Community Land Trust. I'm also joined by Janet Perot, who's also on the board and who also is a participant in the UU Church Housing and Homelessness Task Force. So Avalon Community Land Trust is a fairly new organization, which is a couple years old, but we saw a need for more flexible approaches to housing that's both affordable, community engaged, and democratic. So the Community Land Trust model is meant to create permanently affordable housing, and we're striving to do so with strong community partnerships and also engagements with residents. Our model is based on democratic control of the board through both residents, community stakeholders, and let's say alumni and former residents. So that's a model that in other parts of the country has worked out really well to create, to basically safeguard values around affordability and community development. And so we're just now finishing our first project. In a couple weeks, we'll be bringing online a 7-bedroom house that I'm proud to say is coming in at just over $50,000 a bedroom for per affordable room, which will be 80% AMI requirement. And
Great.
so we're going to aim to continue basically achieving sort of serious values around, I think, a model that is dignified, sustainably built, and also affordable to both develop and maintain in community housing. So in that process, I mean, we both had a little bit of a curveball, which was there's more damage than we expected to the historic community garden site that we're partnering with. And also we see an opportunity to invest some money. We're asking for $17,000 to invest in the community garden that shares a site with a house. It's a historic half-acre community engaged project. We have a lot of partnerships in that neighborhood, right up. This is at 1500 West 8th Street in Waterman, which is historically one of the most deprived neighborhoods in Bloomington. But we have a strong partnership with a neighborhood food bank that's operated by a neighbor up on Spring Street. And the community garden has historically also collaborated with the neighborhood planting project, which distributes free fruit and nut trees to the Bloomington community, especially to neighborhoods that have a pattern of home ownership alongside low income and historic exclusion. And so we weren't able to do the planting project there this year because of the construction, and investing this money would allow us to create a welcoming space that also sets us up for further projects, and also a space for a neighborhood that's historically, I think, suffered from exclusion. So would love questions or to talk about any of this stuff.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Questions from the committee?
I got one. How successful has the community garden been?
The community garden has been successful as was talked about in our application. It's faced challenges. We've shifted to, in the past, focusing on perennials. This also goes hand in hand with our partnership with the neighborhood planting project. And one of the things we're excited about is that with an investment like this, we'd be able to move also towards annual beds where we could do children's education, other kinds of annual production as well.
And then other questions from the committee? Okay, I had a quick question about the relationship because it's a collaborative proposal with the Universal Unitarian Church. Could you speak a little bit about the role that each plays and why the collaboration?
Well, I think we've had a strong collaboration from the get-go. I think the UU Housing and Homelessness Task Force has been in the mix on supporting a bunch of different projects, but from the beginning of ACLT, we've had the engagement of a few different folks from that committee, and that's meant that we've been able to both bring in some of the values from the UU Church, but also expertise. Jana is a retired architect, and so, we're going to have to figure out as we scale up what we're doing, figuring out other approaches to architecture. But I'll just say, one of the things that has helped us keep costs down is just the fact that Jana is doing our drawing for us and also doing that kind of design that is very strongly community and sustainability engaged. And then we've been able to do a series of events and partnerships that included the UU Church supporting a block party that helped launch and introduce the house. We have a lot of strong relationships in that neighborhood, but folks in the neighborhood were interested in why, a kind of a large new affordable housing project was coming in. So it was a really important measure for the church to support us in that, because it meant that about 40 folks from that surrounding kind of block were able to come tour the house and sort of be able to weigh in on some of the elements for the house and the garden, which is the kind of stuff we want to realize through this grant.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Other
And
questions?
the specific values in regards to that's bringing over from the church, what are those exactly?
I think tolerance, community engagement, and looking for the sort of broader partnerships that I think that task force has been building for a long time.
Tolerance in the sense of what?
I think challenging injustice and looking for community inclusion.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm from the church and part of the homelessness task force. And what we kind of tell ourselves as we define ourselves is that social justice is in our DNA. We've been very active in social justice in Bloomington for many, many years. And this is just another extension of it.
Excellent. Any other questions? None? All right.
Thank you all so
Anything
much.
else you'd like to add? You have time.
Well, one of the things that we talked about in terms of this garden is anybody can do a kind of patch garden in the backyard, but in other neighborhoods, more wealthy neighborhoods, there are gardens that are beautiful, right? Well tended, etc. They're designed and really kind of just pull you in because they're so gorgeous. And that's what we want to have here, so that this neighborhood, which has been frankly deprived, has that same kind of community garden that will allow, just make people want to come. So when we have a function, a block party or something, people just want to come.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the intentions of this garden.
Excellent. Last chance. All right, please.
I will say one thing.
It's-
If you get a chance, please look us up at South Shore Community Action Program. We're exploring a lot of gardening ideas outside of what this committee is. So look us up at SCAP, up on 15th Street. My name's Eddie, and I'd like to talk about some of the garden projects that we're doing that could coincide with what you're working on right now.
I would love that.
Okay,
Also,
thank you.
I'd also like to say, you maybe know this, but Councilmember Rallo and I have long wanted to work on some food pilots and things like that, and probably will see some of that in this year's budget. So, yeah, so something love to collaborate, regardless of
Yeah.
how this all goes.
This is music to my ears.
Amazing.
Garden projects. I wondered, so gardens for people who are well off, they can protect them from deer and rabbits and so forth. What do you have the means to do that in this area?
Sorry, do what?
Protect from predation?
It's in the budget to put up both rabbit and deer fence
Is
so
it-
that we can protect from that.
Yeah. Is it netting? What will you use?
Generally, the rabbit fence is low wire,
Yeah.
with small like that. You've seen it at
Yep.
Menards, right? The deer fence has to be taller, but often it doesn't have to be so tall. If you've got a wire and flags at the top, generally the deer don't have to. They can jump a 6-foot fence easy, but they don't bother as long as there's other places where they can feed. So I don't know whether this neighborhood has a lot of deer pressure or not. Mine does. We have every single thing we planted in a cage. I don't know whether that would be the thing, but there is a considerable amount of money that we are going to devote to making sure that the garden stays protected.
Okay,
And I'll
great.
say there's a little bit of increasing deer pressure, so I think we're going to have to be thinking about this. But I'll also say that I think there's a lot of experience with both individual gardening and community engaged projects in the neighborhood. Like as I mentioned before, up on Spring, I mean, it's it's a really beautiful project. It's been going, I think, for more than 10 years, but a neighbor named Buck has been supporting about 30 families in the neighborhood, making, built like a sort of informal food bank that is quite substantial. And so he also gardens on an individual and small basis. And so we're looking to be able to also scale up efforts such as his, but I think there's a lot of experience kind of making things work in this neighborhood.
Okay, where are you going to source plants? I'm just curious about that for your annuals, for instance.
Again, there's a line item in
Yeah.
the budget because, they're not free.
Right.
Some will come from seeds, but others just get a jump on it by buying actual plants. So there's a line item in there for the buying plants.
Total of any suggestions or thoughts you have on?
Well, this is televised, so, there might be farms that might donate.
Wonderful.
So I thought I'd just bring it up, so, in case, because there's a lot of extra starts that farms have that they might donate, so. Okay, thanks, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Beacon and HealthNet. Hello. Let's.
Hi, I'm Melissa Burgess. I am the coordinator for our HealthNet Homeless Initiative Program Street Medicine team.
And I'm Amy Kendall. I'm the development director at Beacon.
So we're here for our joint application for an exam room at Crawford Permanent Supportive Housing Program. So our HIP Street Medicine team, we provide acute and primary care services as well as psychiatric care to the unhoused population. We go into the encampments, on the streets, in the shelters. We also have a clinic then at Crawford. So to date, we have over 1,500 patient visits for our team. We're still a fairly new team. We just started in late 2021, but we've been at Crawford now since December of 2023. So we had 182 patient visits since December of 2023 and about 42 just since this year. So we have, and I'll introduce Abby, she's back here. She's our lead family nurse practitioner. We have another family nurse practitioner, so we have a total of 2. A psychiatric nurse practitioner, and then 2 street outreach case managers who are full-time, and myself. So we do a lot of primary care, we do a lot of wound care, prescribing, linkage to services. We collaborate with a lot of different organizations just so that we can continue to do the services that we have. We understand permanent supportive housing is the key to healthcare. We say housing is healthcare. Our whole motto of street medicine is to meet people where they are and go to the people. So we have a conference room at Crawford right now where we see folks. We go to their apartments if need be, if they're unable to get down to the conference room. Having an exam room would just amplify the services that we are able to offer. So having space, a dedicated space at Crawford, will not only allow us to see more patients, but it will also allow us to provide more comprehensive care. We would be able to do more preventative work, for example, pap smears for some of the residents. We would be able to store supplies. Currently, we carry everything in our backpacks, so we would be able to store medications, we would be able to store wound care supplies, things like that. So being able to have that opportunity would really just enhance our ability to care for the patients at Crawford. So.
Thank you. Questions from the committee?
So I know the water damage and everything. So will there still be an area, a computer lab? Will you try to have space for that, or is that just going away entirely and moving to a health clinic?
Yeah, so the exercise room will be converted to office space for more caseworkers, and the computer lab will be converted to the health clinic. We will still have the community room. That will actually free up the community room because there are other partners who come in, the Humane Association, for example. There are other service providers who use that space as well.
Other questions?
I think last year you had a private partner for your collaborative project, and I think that was the limitation we ran into last year, and I think all of us were just interested in understanding the relationship with HealthNet a little bit better this year.
Yeah. Okay, great.
We're so excited. We also, we see all folks who are unhoused. So we also partner with Beacon at Shalom. We don't have services, we don't have a clinic inside, but we see a lot of people outside as well as, you know, referrals from Friends Place, things like that, wherever we need to see. So we're really grateful for Crawford and Beacon and just in general. And again, to be able to provide the quality care that we do, we just need a space to be able to do it a little bit better.
And by getting this clinic right, you know, within Crawford, then how frequently would you be able to staff it and have the residents get the health care that they need?
Currently, right now, we're there a half a day a week, but we work so closely with Crawford. Our staff are pretty much in communication on at least a weekly, sometimes daily basis, because a lot of them we do provide, if they want, the primary care, so they really are our patients. And so we would be able to be there probably a little bit more often if we could, because of the community space, because that room does get used by other organizations. The other thing is that we also are getting ready actually to start tomorrow, I believe, a support group for women over there. So we want to be able to not just do primary care and psychiatric care, but also be able to provide as much holistic support that we can.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
So in the application, you said that you estimated it's about 130 residents served, but I'd like to tease that out a little bit because, and so both answering this question of sustainability, but then like how often will the residents, do you imagine, use that? Because it's 130 residents within the building, is that correct? As a whole? Like,
Yes, yeah, there are 110 apartments, so that's about 130 residents.
and what is your thoughts on uptake and like, you know, how often will those residents, do you imagine, use these spaces that are being renovated?
Well, you talked about seeing 42 people already this year. With them being, with HealthNet being there at least twice a week, hopefully more as time goes on, we look for it to be used quite a bit. I mean, the real benefits here are having the healthcare so close by. The mental health nurse practitioner is able to prescribe mental health meds after one visit, which is huge. That's a barrier taken away that could otherwise be prevent something. So we see it as being used frequently by residents and just being a huge benefit to them just to have downstairs and just to be able to have it accessible.
Would you think there'll be a possibility to eventually open that up to other residents as well, or do you think that sort of it'll be at capacity with the 110 homes that are already in Crawford?
That's a good question. I see potential for expansion. You know, having a space to be able to have people and not share with other agency partners who come in and use the spaces. If HealthNet is able to have the capacity to do it, then I'm sure we would be happy to keep expanding.
And I'll also say real quick, there are times when we're called to come over to see somebody maybe who just got discharged from the hospital or has an acute, need or whatever the issue may be. And so we're able to just navigate that as we can. And that there are times when we are over there and the community room is busy. And so we ask to use a staff's office or we'll go to the client's apartment, which we'll always do anyways, but being able to have a private dedicated space so that our providers can, especially, both medical and psychiatric, being able to have that private space is really important.
And does anybody else have questions before I ask? I have one more, but.
Oh, I was going to ask about if it's only central to the Crawford residents.
We serve everybody. There actually are a lot of people that we see that stay around Crawford, and the Crawford staff will ask us to see them, and we'll absolutely see them. We always prioritize Crawford residents, of course, but there's a lot of other guests that stay, and so we'll see them as well.
And I would imagine not having to carry your stuff and your backpacks everywhere would make a big difference in terms of people coming to you.
Yeah.
Also.
Abby carries 2 backpacks, so.
And then a follow-up on a question that was asked earlier. I think in the application you said something like, I think that there's 1,500 volunteers between, I assume between both organizations, which is incredible. That's wonderful. And it's another testament to how great our community is. Sustainability of primarily volunteer-run efforts and organizations. Could you speak a little bit of sort of where you see this sort of one-time investment being sustained over the long term, and sort of the difference that this one-time investment would make?
Well, for HealthNet, maybe the volunteers more on the Beacon side. HealthNet, our policy is it's pretty specific on volunteers. We may have students that are more committed, medical students that are with us, but because our work is so intense and HIPAA compliant, we are an FQHC, so we have all the HRSA, JACO, all that guidance. So we don't take volunteers with us per se into the encampments or at Crawford. So I don't know if that was more on the Crawford side.
Mostly volunteers at Crawford help with the food pantry, and so they're not there in the medical capacity.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Any other questions? We have 2 minutes. Any others? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Or send a follow-up email, I guess. No. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you. All right, next, I believe we have Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Are they here? Yay!
Hi guys. So my name is Darby. I'm the program director for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of South Central Indiana. We're a youth-serving organization. For those of you who don't know, we're a nonprofit, and we specifically provide mentorship service to youth in the community. Over the past year, we've kind of gone through a lot of growth and changes, all great things, but we now serve 13 counties across 2 different states, and after recently acquiring another agency. But right now, a lot of our kids who are on our wait list are here in Monroe County, specifically in Bloomington. We've got 180 kids waiting to be matched with a mentor, and about 60% of those kids are little brothers, and about 60% of our total littles are also kids here in Bloomington and Monroe County. So one thing that I did want to highlight, a recent family did come to one of our family events, and a sibling or a cousin had heard from one of the siblings in the family about the match she has had and the impact, and she actually came up to us and asked us how she could get involved as a little in our program, and how she could even get information for her brother to get involved in the program, which really just shows the impact of mentorship and just having an adult friend and someone to look up to. And maybe you can't ask your parents the uncomfortable questions, but you have someone you can trust and talk to. But really, I know today we're here to talk about the role and the grant that we're applying for. So today we're talking about a part-time position we're hoping to fund called the Community Relationship Specialist. And this is a role that really supports the full cycle of our matches, all the way from enrollment to match support. So that includes enrolling volunteers and youth, facilitating match introductions, conducting monthly check-ins, and most importantly, ensuring child safety and everyone's happiness. As our bigs and littles go through, our role really helps us to make sure that matches get timely support, are ensuring that our matches are safe and successful, and really making sure that each kid has a great experience in the program and it's tailored to them. With the added capacity and an additional staff member, we can move forward, connect more families, and really streamline things that have been moving forward. So our enrollment process actually shrank. So we were able to streamline our process, but now we're at capacity and our staff can't handle any more volunteer enrollments, and we have more volunteers coming through the door than we can navigate through the enrollment process. So having an additional staff person, especially for our influx of volunteers who come from Monroe County, would really help us to match our Monroe County, specifically City of Bloomington littles. It really is just looking at I know your question was relating to the funding, and so I wanted to clarify that this grant specifically, we're looking to cover about 63% of the position. The rest of the funding would come from grants that have already been secured, as well as one grant that we're working to secure. And then additionally, we're hoping that moving forward, not only will we have additional grants that we can apply for in years future to help sustain this position, but we're also growing our monthly and recurring donor program. We've realized how important that is to sustaining a nonprofit. And we're working on building that. We've just hired somebody as a contractor to really help us navigate what does that look like and how do we do that in a nonprofit field, and also do it well to make sure that we're not just getting people through the door as a one-time donor, but we give them a reason to want to stay and continue donating. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Questions from the committee?
So I was a big at one point, and I remember having a match specialist.
Yeah.
So is this relationship person basically a match specialist, or that's part of their duties? And do you have more than one relationship person, or is this person going to be tasked with most of the work?
So it's kind of a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
So how we've really tried to tackle the role now is we will cross-train our staff. So they can do anything from enrollment to hosting a match when they're first meeting each other, all the way to doing those match support check-ins. A lot of it is to make sure that as we have influxes throughout the year, we've noticed at certain times we have an influx of volunteers coming through, and other times we have an influx of kids coming through. So making sure our staff are cross-trained to do all of those tasks, but especially the match support. Right now we have staff working with specific matches, but also just matches across our agency, because we have so many that we're trying to support right now. And that's just a little bit of the role. They'll also help with going out to community events as we have time in their capacities that we'll build in. That way we can really engage and be a part of the community a bit more. So
it's adding someone will take stuff off other people's plates, kind of spread the work out a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, of course.
Other questions? What happens if this, so say we fund it, but then you're not successful in getting other funds, what happens?
Thankfully, with the other funds that we're looking at, the funding that we're still waiting to hear on is, if I remember correctly, it's about 10 to 15% of what is left. So we have already secured through our federal grants the additional funding that may not be available through this. And if we receive less dollars, that is also manageable because of that federal funding. We can also make up the additional funds through different agency events, like we have Bowl for Kids' Sake, Golf for Kids' Sake, Crew Car Wash, all the good stuff.
And the
yeah.
flip side of this question, if we do fund it and you also get all of the other funds and everything goes well, what will you use the excess money to do?
At this point, probably hiring an additional part-time person.
Is that right? Okay.
We have 140 active matches in our program, and traditionally that means 2 to 3 check-ins with a match per month. And so that, in addition to our volunteers we're trying to enroll in the youth, we have so many that truly the staff we currently have are at max capacity and we can't take in anymore. So.
Any other questions?
If anyone wants to be a big, you know how to get a hold of me now. but yeah. I feel you. I feel you. Trust me.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank you
thank
for all
you.
that you do. All right. Never ever have we made such great pace. This is, next we have Bloomington St. Vincent de Paul's. Thank you so much for being here.
Please scoot out of that way.
Thank you.
Well, I timed this for 3 minutes with my wife, so don't put any time.
And we're a serious bunch over here. I mean,
My name is Bob Zur, and I'm president of the Bloomington St. Vincent de Paul Society. We are an all-volunteer organization dedicated to helping those in need in Bloomington and Monroe County. This year, we are requesting bridge funding of $30,000 to support our Emergency Utilities Assistance Program. The goal of this program is to help Bloomington City residents facing financial hardships with utility bill assistance. With this grant, we can provide an average of $250 of utility assistance to 120 families, or approximately 360 individuals. Our financial assistance, combined with our knowledge of utility payment plans with utility providers, will help ensure families maintain essential utility services and remain in their homes. I don't need to tell you the importance of uninterrupted utility service for all people, but especially those with children, the elderly, or the disabled. The reason we need this funding is that we have seen an increase in the number of both individuals and families seeking utility assistance and the amount of assistance they need. As utility costs continue to increase, many individuals struggle to pay accumulated debts, making it difficult to meet their obligations. This funding will serve as a bridge to assist individuals struggling with utility bills and facing disconnection of services. The benefit of granting St. Vincent de Paul these funds is that we work with practically all the social services agencies and organizations in the community. Since we are an all-volunteer society, there is virtually no overhead to the administrative side of our service. We do track all the aid we give, and we train our volunteers to the best of our abilities to determine the households we help are on a sustainable path to meeting future financial obligations. To measure success of the project, we will track outcome indicators as indicated in our application. These indicators will allow us to evaluate the immediate impact of the funding on a family's ability to maintain utility service and access long-term solutions for energy savings. We appreciate your consideration of this grant proposal. Any funding that we receive not only helps prevent utility shutoffs for those in most need of our assistance, but it allows more resources for our other programs and the programs of other agencies as well. That's all I have for that.
I have you exactly at 2.5 minutes. So I mean, I won't tell your wife that she makes you nervous. Apparently.
She'll be glad to know. I think I read it a little faster.
Questions from the committee?
So I think we really wanted to hear from you. I know we gave a grant last year for the same thing, and I think we wanted to hear like what the impact of that was.
Well,
the metrics that you talked about, like what that looked like.
So the grant last year was for rent and rent deposit. Okay, so we did help 120 clients with a total of 282 family members. This full $30,000 grant was used to help, again, those 120 clients with an average of $250. Of the 120 households, 45 were single person and 74 were family units with household sizes ranging from 1 to 7 people. Volunteers helped residents in all 4 of the residential non-IU zip code of the city, with zip code 47401 having the highest number of households and residents assisted. The age distribution of clients ranged from 19 to 75 years of age. Most clients, 79%, were women, indicative of the large number of mother-led families, but also the result of the fact that in several cases, it was the female adult who contacted us and therefore listed as the client. The goal was to help clients stay in their homes without evictions and to help clients fund rent deposits. Although it is too soon to really evaluate long-term success, we do know that the aid provided kept 120 families in their homes or helped them move into new housing. This benefits the city of Bloomington by keeping families together in safe residence and out of shelters and reduces the need for additional social services. Just to mention a couple success stories, a married couple with 3 young children fell behind in rent when the mother became unemployed. She had just started a new job, but needed help until she started getting paychecks. Our assistance kept them in their home as their lives got back on track. Another success story was the husband of a working mother left her and her 18-year-old daughter in a lurch with the rent. She came to us asking for help to keep her current with the landlord while her daughter looks for a job. In a follow-up, it seems that the client and her daughter are on the path to regaining self-sufficiency. So I think, there's so many great stories that I can share with you, but I think we all of us in our all-volunteer community of about 70 people are passionate about how we want to help the community. So, any other questions?
Yeah, come.
Go, please.
Sorry, I had a quick question. This probably came out last year, and it may be somewhere in the larger packet of materials that you included, rather than just the summary. But, the name of the agency is St. Vincent de Paul, serving Monroe County. I was wondering, with the rent assistance from last year's program, do you serve Monroe County residents, right? They don't have to be in the city of Bloomington?
Right. But the money from the Jack Hopkins grant was just for Bloomington City residents.
So you screen, and that would be the same with this grant as it was
Yes.
with last year?
Yep, that's correct. I mean, we spent about $70,000 total for rent and rent deposits last year. 30,000 of that was from the grant.
And can you give me a percentage of overall clientele that you serve with these two programs, the rent assistance program and what you maybe project for this one? But based on what you do with the rent assistance, what percentage breakdown between city and county residents?
I would say probably 75% city. And I know you're trying to assess more property into the city, but I don't. We're there to help anybody in the city limits and the county. But Jack Hopkins money will be for the city of Bloomington residents, and we determine that by zip codes. We ask, if they fall within the zip code of Bloomington City.
Any other questions? Could you explain why this is the right amount to ask for? Like, why not ask for triple this?
It's a good question. I just wonder if we're afraid we're not gonna, if we ask for too much, you won't even consider it.
Okay.
We can use the money we're out looking for.
But maybe what's the I guess the demand on your services currently, and do you usually get more demand than you have money to provide, or where are you at?
Well, normally we only provide $150 for assistance for a 6-month period. With the grant, we've increased that to $250 per person or per family. And if we don't have the money, we have a general fund that we get from the 3 local Catholic churches, some other churches, non-denominational churches, and grants. So we haven't secured any additional grants yet this year, but we're hoping for another grant of about $25,000.
Okay.
But
And then could you speak a little bit to partnerships throughout the community? So, I mean, how plugged in are you with what SCAP's doing with the city around economic equity, things with the townships, trustees, so on?
Yeah. So we always ask the client who calls in for assistance, have they approached any of the other agencies? And we give them leads on all these different agencies because they may be asking for $2,500 and we can only provide $150 or $250. So we know the people in all these different agencies. We sometimes we'll even call ahead to tell them that we're going to get a call from this client. But Bloomington Township trustee gave us $5,000 last year. I mean, we work closely with them, with SCAP. I mean, there's just so many cases where we've bonded together or grouped our funds together to help, you know, those in need. So, you know, it's just a great relationship that we have with all of them.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, I believe I had it. We have the Boys and Girls Club. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Oh, you want me to go get you one?
Where is it?
Hi, my name is Wendy Drukmiller, and I am the Grants and Impact Director for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Bloomington. And our application was for bridge funding to support expenses related to the acquisition of a long-term lease for our Ellettsville Club. Previously, we were in a short-term lease situation that prevented us from, one, being able to make renovations and upgrades that were needed for the building, as well as we really didn't have the ability to predict the long-term availability of a club in that area. So the long-term lease has allowed us to do both of those things, but it has come with unbudgeted expenses related to reimbursement of utilities and maintenance fees to RBB stair-stepping over the next 3 years. The questions were, sorry about that. I don't do well speaking in public. I get a little bit nervous, I'm sorry. Thank you. How will Bloomington residents specifically be served and how many? And how many Bloomington students attend the institution in Ellettsville? So actually, our Ellettsville Club has the breakdown of where people reside. Bloomington residents are the highest percentage of members at the Ellettsville Club. So we serve 207 individual members at the Ellettsville Club and 139 households within the Ellettsville Club. How will they be served? So basically the main benefit to our being able to secure the long-term lease is to be able to have a club in that area, so to be able to provide those supports over a long term. So the only other childcare provider in that area would be the Latchkey program, which has limited availability. It is $118 per month, regardless of use, and sorry about that. And there's limited spots available. Oh, and they don't have any structured programming as well. As opposed to the Boys and Girls Clubs, we provide programming in access to the arts, academic success, healthy lifestyles, good character and citizenship. Our annual membership fee is only $20 per year, and so members can come, 1 day a week. They can come 5 days a week. They have access to everything that we provide for just that $20 annual membership. So in our family survey, we asked parents and caregivers, when it comes to after-school programs, what is most important to you? And the 4 items that they listed, number 1 was a safe place to be. Number 2, hours that work with my schedule. Number 3, the cost of attendance. And number 4, that their child can get there easily. So regarding safety, we have a board-led safety committee with quarterly club safety inspections, daily facility checks. We have, an emergency contact on file with approved pickup members only being able to pick up their member at the club. We are a member of the Indiana After School Network, and we maintain our facilities in compliance with the top 10 standards on safety, health, and nutrition, as well as we're in compliance with BGCA's, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, national safety standards. Our ratio in the club is 1 staff member to 20 members, and in the community it's 1 to 8. All of our staff and volunteers undergo a criminal background check, are checked against the National Sex Offender Registry, and receive an FBI fingerprint background check. Regarding hours that work with my schedule, we are open until 7 p.m. during the school year and 6 p.m. during summer hours, which more closely aligns with what many adults work, which allows them to work longer hours or to be able to accept a job at all. The cost of attendance, as I mentioned, is $20 for an annual membership fee, and we also have some reduced cost or no cost options as well. And we pick up members from the clubs, or the members are driven directly from school on the school buses through our partnerships with the transportation companies. So essentially, it really just allows parents and caregivers the opportunity to have peace of mind, knowing that their child, is in a safe, fun environment, doing productive things, so that they can focus on their job and doing what they need to do.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Sorry.
Questions from the committee?
Oh, you did good.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, very good.
I'm like literally anybody else who could do this.
No. Questions from the committee?
I'm trying to frame my question in terms of sustainability and longevity of that. I know you said long-term lease. I mean, that is very good because Ellisville is so close to Bloomington. They cross, in so many different ways, and so close. So I'm wondering, with this funding, how far could it go in terms of support and long-term?
So we're requesting the bridge funding in order to give us time to reestablish a fundraising committee in that community that's going to be led by the board, and to just better be able to establish relationships in the community, so that moving forward we're able to assume full responsibility for the utility.
Is there any time frame for those?
So the stair stepping, it was 75% the first year, 50% the second year, and 25% the third year. So our fundraising goals are in alignment with being able to assume 100% responsibility for that at that timeline.
And I think your request was only for 6 months.
Yes, 6
right?
months of that, correct. So
Okay.
starting in June through the remainder of the year.
Cool.
Any other?
Where is the building located?
Is it?
It's on State Road
is it-
46. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Where it had, remind me, I'm sorry, I probably missed this. Was it where your short-term lease, was it now your long-term lease?
correct. Yes,
The same building?
Same building.
Okay.
That's correct. Yes. State legislation prevented us from being able to secure a long-term lease, and then we were able to get that changed.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you.
Sorry if I had missed
No,
that.
no, no.
Colleagues, any other questions? No? All right.
Thank you. If I can have just one more second.
Please,
So
yes. You can
I know
have
it's
5.
surprising that
You can have 5 minutes if you'd
want to
like.
continue to talk, but if I could just share a couple of quotes from family members regarding the impact, and specifically related to being able to work and maintain employment. So it says, without programs like the Boys and Girls Club, I wouldn't be able to work. The ability to have care after school and on breaks is valuable to us because we have no family here. I also love that they are always doing something and not just hanging out. It's an incredible value, both in terms of cost and what the club provides. My child benefits from the many enrichment activities and time to play, and I benefit by being better able to manage my responsibilities while I know that she is in a safe place. It saved us when we needed it. My husband is a federal worker. While previously he could have met our kids off the bus, he now works in Indianapolis each day and can't be home in time. We did not budget for the extra gas and mileage, let alone childcare expenses. The hours the club is open and the low cost has been wonderful in helping us navigate this new normal. I value the people and the low cost of the club. There is high quality programming and staff at the club, and I know that my children will be safe and have fun. The club has enabled me to grow in my job and earn an increased salary, which has greatly helped my family overcome some of its challenges. And I'm happy that I can now provide more for my children. The club is crucial to my family's success story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I believe our next is Catholic Charities. I think, are they online or?
Yes,
Yeah?
I believe Emily Cook is presenting for Catholic Charities.
If you could.
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Okay. So you can hear me, it sounds like. I'm getting a message that says you cannot start your video because it is disabled by the host.
Let me change that perhaps.
I think it's now.
You can always make them a host for the moments.
Yeah, I think that was before we changed. Yeah, should we make him a co-host?
Yeah, do that.
Sure, okay. Stand by, please. Apologies for the technical difficulties. There we go. All right, give it a whirl now.
All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Hello.
And what if we do this?
Thank you. Thanks for making it possible to present via Zoom tonight.
Certainly.
I've been a little under the weather, so I
Thank
appreciate
you for
it.
being here.
Yes. Well, I'm Emily Cook, and I'm with Catholic Charities Bloomington. Our mission is to make high-quality, trauma-informed mental health care as accessible as possible to members of the Bloomington community, including those individuals and families who might otherwise find that therapy is out of reach. This year, Catholic Charities is requesting funding to help subsidize the cost of providing trauma treatment services to clients aged 18 and under, including specialized services like play therapy and EMDR. In the past year, we've invested heavily in staff training, and all of our therapists are now trained to use both of these therapeutic modalities with clients. So all of our therapists can provide play therapy or EMDR. This will allow us to place children and other clients in need of trauma-related care with therapists as quickly as possible, rather than having to wait for openings with a specific therapist. We know that early intervention can reduce the long-term health, family, and community consequences of trauma and of adverse childhood experiences, and we're committed to continuing to provide this care regardless of clients' ability to pay. So as of March 2025, last month, 47% of our clients utilize our income-based self-pay program. Our self-pay clients include individuals who face barriers in accessing Medicaid benefits or in applying for Medicaid benefits, and also individuals who may not be eligible for Medicaid but are facing tough choices between paying for health insurance and health care or other basic necessities like housing and food. Our program also serves individuals who may have insurance, either through an employer or through the marketplace, but for whom high deductibles or high copays would put therapy out of reach. On average, our self-pay clients pay only about $26 per session, and for some comparison, a typical 1-hour therapy session in Bloomington with a provider in private practice might run somewhere between $120 and $150. And several of our clients also receive services at no cost to them at all. Over the course of a year, most of our self-pay clients would save about $4,500 compared to what they might pay if they were receiving services elsewhere. We also have about 40% of our clients right now who are using Medicaid benefits to access service. And Medicaid does reimburse us at a higher rate than what we typically pass on to our self-pay clients, but Indiana still ranks amongst the lowest states in terms of the reimbursement rates they provide for mental health care, meaning that Catholic Charities needs to subsidize quite a bit of these costs through grants and donations. So the committee had inquired about the status of the project you funded last year, which we were very grateful for, which focused on a similar population. Last year's project focused specifically on kids who are using that self-pay program. I'm happy to share that 31 kids from Bloomington directly benefited from the services funded by that 2024 Jack Hopkins grant, including 10 children who began receiving services for the first time during that funding period. These therapy sessions for eligible clients would have cost about $28,000, but with the committee's support, only about $5,500 of these costs were passed on to children's families, and support from other funders helped CCD absorb the rest of these costs. Based on reports from our therapists, the children who were served by this program experienced several benefits, including improved school attendance and academic performance, better mental health and reduced anxiety, stronger family and social relationships, and increased self-confidence. So, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. They answered the question that we asked, but are there other questions from the committee? No other questions? Fantastic. Thank you so much for a thorough presentation,
Thank you very
Emily.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next we have, and if they're not here, we can readjust. But CJAM is CJAM here?
Yeah, they're presenting via Zoom also.
Hooray!
I do not have video.
It's coming.
Okay.
You will be granted with the authority of a co-host. Think of all of the things you could accomplish in these 10 minutes. Could just make everybody co-host. I mean, granted.
Sure.
I mean, that's, I don't know. Well,
I think you should be.
yeah, I know, right? Like
co-host now.
They start like blocking each other. You know, like.
Yeah, love it.
All right, I'm Jane Ann Gifford. I'm from the Community Justice and Mediation Center. I think most of you are familiar with the work that we do, but just as a broad brush, we have 3 fundamental programs: restorative justice, community mediation, and we also run a fairly robust small claims and eviction court mediation program. So our request tonight is for a grant to help us continue to support eviction court. I don't know if you're aware that there are about 700 to 1,000 evictions in Monroe County every year. And since the inception of the program in June of 2019, CJAM has provided volunteer mediators 4 hours a week, 2 hours on Wednesday and 2 hours on Thursday. Typically, we have anywhere from 2 to 6 mediators available. While it is not a collaborative project per se, we work closely. There is an opportunity for legal advice that's free. Then tenants and landlords are offered the opportunity to mediate. And I will say, when I say offered the opportunity, they are strongly encouraged to mediate. And then there is a third piece of that, which is we call checkout, which is an opportunity for the tenants to then, after what happens in court, make sure they understood what happened, and also we provide some social services referral. The roles in this program that we now perform are all of them except for legal advice. We provide a court liaison to the judges who essentially assists with the management of Zoom, because all eviction court hearings are on Zoom, and helps coordinate the queue for mediation, the queue for legal advice, the queue for social services referrals. And then we also have volunteers who are in checkout. So the money that we're requesting is primarily to support the coordination of all of the volunteers and case management. In the summons package, there is an intake phone number, which tenants are advised to call if they would like to consider mediation prior to court. And we give them the opportunity and the resources for legal advice if they want that. So we are managing the case, and many times well before the court date, in terms of trying to coordinate a mediation with the landlord and potentially the landlord's attorney. Our goal really is to ensure that people do not have an eviction on their record. So that can be in kind of 2 outcomes in mediation. One, that they remain and they have a reasonable payment plan that they know they can do, or to do a voluntary move out. in which case it clearly shows, and so Section 8 is maintained, and people are able to find housing. So our compliance rate to mediated agreements runs in the 81 to 85% range. The program is exceptional and has been noted throughout the state as very progressive. But it takes a lot of heavy lifting to have 2 to 12 mediators a week in court, and to coordinate and make sure they're properly trained to be mediating. So that's the essence. We have also, sort of as part of social services referral, there was a recent law passed in Indiana about eviction ceiling, so we try to provide information to people about that as well during checkout.
Thank you.
So absolutely.
Thank you so much. Questions from the committee? I think our main question was around the scope. I mean, I know on the application you said sort of 200 city residents, 300 plus, and so I think it was sort of as a minimum that you think this. And I'm sorry, you're there, but the camera's there. But I'm so sorry. I'm not like looking away from you as I ask this question. I think so. Trying to get a sense of how the sort of bounds of the project, but then also, I mean, I guess similar question that I asked earlier. It's like, can you right size this? If you're saying there's 1,000, people every year in Bloomington that are evicted, and you're roughly saying that with this amount of money we'll be able to serve about 30% of them. Like, are there physical limit? Yeah, like yeah. So we're
First of all, right, the money is 6 months. So it's really, so he Wyatt, who is the executive director, I think when he scaled it down in terms of what he thought the scope was in that period.
Right.
I think you need to sort of think about, there are 1,000 evictions filed. Some of those are ultimately dismissed, not a lot, but on a typical Wednesday or Thursday, there might be 24 cases scheduled. So when you say how many people, right, in terms of households,
right,
and people, it's way more than 300 on an annual basis. Right. It's hundreds of people, and so yeah. So I mean, the scope is it's a very aggressive scope. Now that does not include completely like the cases that happen outside of court, because those all have to be managed separately, which is partly the issue, right? We're coordinating and training volunteers in landlord-tenant mediation because it's different than community mediation. These relationships are highly transactional, right? Most of the landlords and tenants do not have long-standing relationships necessarily, but it's important that there's understanding there. And so it is a slightly different kind of mediation. So in addition to the 40-hour CGM training, right, they are also required to go through a pretty rigorous entry process into court. You have to be tech savvy and do other things. So it takes a lot of coordination.
Okay. And then what happens if we didn't fund this, or if we funded less than what's been asked for?
Then we'll probably have less presence, right? I mean, we'll see, there will be less clients seen and less, because there's, the administrative side of this requires, a significant amount of time. And we won't keep up. I mean, we'll be in court and there'll probably be a lot of cases where the judge just can't refer them to mediation, or asks us to try to do it after court, which happens sometimes if we don't have capacity. So people will drop through the cracks. This is not a perfect solution, but it is a good solution. And as we try to work to be more proactive, to have mediations and conflicts brought before they go to court, it's what we need to do. So.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the committee? we're making time. This is great.
They're
Never,
being very thorough.
you know, never in the history of getting city council members together have we ever been so fast. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank
Jan.
you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, moving right along then, unless there's does anybody need to take a bio break or anything of the sort? We're an hour in. Everybody's okay. All right then, let's move forward with Crested Hill. They in the room or online?
Maybe
I think they're online.
online, yeah. I assume that that's the
Yeah, go ahead.
particular individual.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, co-host coming up.
Hi, my name's Holly Skeeter from Crested Hill, and I'm trying to start the video, but it's telling me that it's
Try now, we've given you the power.
Poof.
But no worries if not, we will assume
It's
you're
still not-
smiling.
Still not letting you?
I'm sorry, I'm not great at this Zoom. It's
No problem.
help, or should I just go ahead and get started?
Yes, ma'am. It will take nothing from you, so please go on.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. So, yes, I'm Holly Cedar, and I'm the Executive Director and Founder of Crested Hill Refuge. I appreciate you asking me to join you and talk a little bit about this project. As I'm sure you know, there's a shortage of mental health resources available across the country and right here in our community. We know that a lack of resources can cause an increase of emergency room visits, suicides and addictions, the loss of jobs and housing. Unfortunately, the list goes on. But if we address mental health care, then we are in turn addressing a myriad of these negative conditions we want to avoid. As a healthcare chaplain for over 10 years, I witnessed firsthand the devastating effects lack of mental health care causes. I saw this at the bedside of hospital patients, accompanying family members to see their loved ones in the morgue, and in horrible outcomes for children at Riley Hospital that is hard to even begin to imagine and comprehend. I myself have a daughter on the autism spectrum and have not been able to get her into consistent care at the various counseling offices here in town. And in fact, at one point, my daughter had to become suicidal before I could get her in to see someone. Thank goodness she's okay now, but she's not been able to have that consistent counseling care over the years. Her father died by suicide when she was just 8, which makes it all that much more likely that she herself might attempt it at some point in her life. Thankfully, I have resources that many others do not. Yet, even with these resources, we have still had trouble getting her into therapists when she's been in dire need of support. I'm so glad that I, as a horse person, have had access to the therapeutic presence innate to horses. Because we endured this roller coaster trying to get access to care, I felt called to help others struggling. While at hospice, I was awarded a grant for a program providing equine-assisted counseling to pediatric referrals, as well as a week-long grief camp during the summer. I learned a lot through these experiences, and seeing just how many referrals were coming to me, I felt called to step into this work full-time, and that's when I left hospice and started this nonprofit. Serendipitously, several things came together just right, and we have now moved into a beautiful facility near University Elementary School on Russell Road. The horses have acclimated to their new home, and we are ready to get started. We just recently finished the process of becoming a PATH member facility, which means that our program will have high standards of safety and care for our clients and volunteers, and we will be held accountable by PATH in regard to these standards. Since one of the main obstacles to getting mental health care is a lack of financial resources, we are providing services on a sliding scale. This means that we will have far less money coming in than if we charged full price. It is with this in mind that we are asking for such a large amount of money. We know, though, that if we can cover the cost of all that is in our budget proposal,
that we will be able to focus more fully on our clients and programming, quickly building our capacity. Again, thank you for your time, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you. Questions from the community?
Sure. Holly, thank you very much for sharing all of that and for what you're doing. I think, obviously mental health care can be difficult to access, and I appreciate anybody who's trying to provide and make it easier for people who might not have easy access to it, and in many different ways. With the funding that you're requesting, what would happen if we wouldn't be able to fund your entire request, but we're able to give you a portion of it? Would that be able to help you accomplish anything? Would you be able to find maybe some other funding in other ways? What would that look like for you?
Yeah, we would still go on with the project. The issue is just how many people can we serve. So this full budget would be allowing us to provide services to as many people as possible. We would be able to go on if we don't have the complete funding. Of course, we would seek other, through donations and through other grants. We would definitely, we're going to keep pursuing that no matter what. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
As a follow-up to that question, if you were to sort of, I know you've ranked the priorities within the application as we asked, but am I to understand correctly that those are somewhat dependent on each other as well, right? Like you can't finish the reception and counseling spaces without dealing with priority one, which is the purchase of the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, some of those things are interdependent, but there are ways to make things, possible. For example, if for some reason we weren't able to finish that counseling space, there is sort of a finished part of it's like a little apartment that's attached to the barn. And part of that is finished, so, we could use a little portion of that, but if we got the whole thing done, that means that we would have 2 counseling spaces instead of just the one little small space. So, yeah, there are some things that could be moved around a little bit.
And then the staff, when you say support for staff and volunteers, do you plan on getting more? Should that be funded, or is that going to? Because at the moment you have I assume yourself, 1 part-time person, and then 22 volunteers. If we were to fund that, would that increase the number of staff, or is that supporting existing staff?
So right now, the counselors that I have are volunteer. In order to have enough counselors, I really, I don't think I could, rely only on volunteers for that. So that's why I was putting that in there. I would do some contracting with some counselors who have shown interest. I do have counselors who can volunteer, but it's just not enough.
Okay.
So that would be helping to support that role, yeah.
And then my last question, could you explain to us how we got to the estimate of 175 city residents to be served by this project just in the year 25?
Yes, good question. So I was looking at our services for a year, looking at if we were able to do the full amount. So that would be looking at programming Monday through Friday and then part of the day on Saturdays. It would be looking at really doing some groups. That number was that high because I'm looking at trying to do this in groups, so that, one-on-one is great, and we will be doing that, but a lot of it will be groups of people coming in, which helps that number to get a little bit higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions?
Any other questions? I'm sorry, I have a follow-up on my own question, sorry. Back to the question of prioritization of the investment. I'm sort of, and I'm sorry if I'm not phrasing this in a eloquent or thoughtful way, what is I'm trying to understand the necessary and sufficient things, right? So with there's this total cost, the amount that you're asking for, the number of people affected, and when I think about the number of people, that's fantastic. But I'm curious if there's some level where it's like, I mean, I don't know how to explain this. Like, at what point does that number drop substantially, right? Like what is the necessary investment to proportionally to the amount of residents you'll be able to serve, right? So 'cause it feels sort of exponential at the moment with what's being asked, right? Is that the whole project could have a large impact, and I'm struggling to understand the impact, if not the whole project.
Right, yes, I hear what you're asking. Yeah, I think that, well, one thing that would speak to that is extra support for clients, gas cards. I know that when I did this program before, one of our biggest problems was that it was out a little bit farther away from the city, and we often had some no-shows. And that's really where the numbers, we had problems with the numbers. So doing the gas cards, doing the groups at times that are after school is helpful. Trying to think, really we really need therapy horses. That was, I think that's a priority, because without those therapy horses, then, we can't do the project either. So that would be another priority.
Okay.
That would affect the numbers.
This is all super helpful. Thank you. Sorry for asking so many questions. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, moving right along. El Centro Comunal Latino. Are they physically here? Hey! Come, join us. Yeah, no, stand, please. I mean, if you find it weird, we would.
My name is Andrea Ahrens,
And Pablo Artia.
and we're here on behalf of El Centro Comunal Latino, asking for funds for a project called La Escuelita. A little bit of history on the project is that this did exist in the past from 2015 to 2020, when of course the pandemic happened, and then the person directing the program passed away. As we've attempted to reinitiate the program, another community leader passed away in 2022. So in that time, the program initially was run out of the library, had materials, but due to the lapse, the materials were donated to Teachers Warehouse, and we're looking to reinitiate the program, and we don't have materials. Currently, the plan is for the program to have sort of 3 prongs: bilingualism through biliteracy in Spanish, so serving Latina children and their families, to have a cultural component for biculturalism, and then to have a parent support and education component. Where we do have a typo in our request, in the breakdown we're requesting $4,000 in order to purchase materials. Our plan now is to run the program out of
Really, $4 million.
Is to run the project out of La Casa del Latino Cultural Center on IU's campus, as the library requires week-to-week reservations. This way we can do a long-term reservations, and the director of La Casa, Lillian Casillas, has offered us Saturday mornings to run the program. We align with the goals of the Hopkins in targeting historically marginalized communities. MCCSC estimates 7.5% of their children are Hispanic, Latino. The education component, we know, as cited in our application, that developing literacy skills in home language increases and improves academic outcomes in majority languages. It also develops and strengthens social and cultural bonds, which have a myriad of benefits for children. And if you would like to add anything else.
I will
just add how important for these kids is to learn their own language. I'm a school teacher, so I can see how it is impactful for them, not only academically, because you can see like overdiagnosis of speech impairments and cognitive impairments, but also like emotionally. And I always put this example of think of your grandparents, or I remember my grandma as a great woman, and I have a lot of memories. So imagine not being able to communicate with her. That's the magnitude of this problem with these kids and how impactful it is for them.
Yes.
Excellent. Questions? So I'm curious about the because the library does have quite a few, I mean, a good number of bilingual resources. So could you talk to us specifically about, specifically about the specific resources that you want to buy, and then similarly right size it, like why the small amount that you're asking for, given the size of the community?
Well, I would say books aren't terribly expensive, so that would be the small amount. And then we are fairly ambitious in what we want to do as we continue to develop and scale the program. So we have a couple of people in our committee who are researchers at IU, so we want to level the books. We want to be targeted in our intervention. We want to take baseline measurements and later outcomes measurements. And so we want to own the materials and have them organized and leveled in that way.
That makes sense. And then why? I see lots of benefits to doing so, but why host it at La Casa instead of hosting it at like an MCSC building?
We're open to other organizations that would donate the space, and we have looked and asked. I've asked other IU spaces. So far, this is the space that has guaranteed their donation to us.
Wherever is free.
Yeah.
Wherever it's free. That's great. And then in terms of population, I mean, I understand with the pilot project, the idea is to sort of focus on heritage speakers. Is there a long-term goal to also focus on other parts of the community who may not be heritage speakers per se, but might be learning Spanish, might be a summit, something like that?
I mean, we typically focus on heritage speakers or the Latin community.
But why not expand to a broader community? Just thinking, I mean, there is a big demand in Bloomington also for for people to learn both about Hispanic culture, to learn Spanish as a language.
You mean teach Spanish as a second language to?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of students who are not heritage speakers who are in immersion programs across the city. I mean, we have 2 immersion schools. And then we have a preschool also that's immersion. So just curious if.
Yeah, I teach at Summit, which is I teach in dual immersion. So you mean Latin students who are newcomers here in Bloomington?
I mean, so like if my son wanted to join, could he?
In Summit, yes.
No, in La Escuelita.
Well, right now we have such limited resources that we want to focus where we can impact more. And yeah, I guess that's why we try to focus.
Understood, but what you've proposed to us is a pilot project. So I'm curious about the long term. Like what do you do if the pilot's successful? How do you want to scale this, or is it just we'll try it and if it works, yay, it worked? Or like what's the long term goal?
I mean, in the past we were running from K through 6th grade. So we're trying to start from 1 or 2 grade levels and try to expand that.
That's other grades. Awesome.
The other challenge with that, it will be like it's a different type of learning, like teaching Spanish as a second language versus teaching it as a heritage language.
Sure.
There's some like difference in methodology. And
sure. Right.
So, yeah.
Excellent. Other questions?
You pretty much just addressed what I was about to ask, but just to kind of clarify that. My question was about the target age range. So you said it was initially K through 6. You're looking for 1 or 2 grades now. I'm assuming on the earlier end of the spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had to decide like, okay, where do we need to focus, and we decided, okay, let's focus on probably first grade, kindergarten.
Yeah. With the idea then that hopefully you can
Yeah.
incorporate.
Exactly.
Great.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
I have a question, just a comment. You should check out Lotus Education and Arts Foundation as a potential space.
Okay.
It's near Fairview, and they're really well located, and so I think that they would be willing to open to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's a comment from the which I mean,
Do
if
you
you're-
need space?
Yeah, happy to entertain.
I mean, we got a place, so at La Casa, but
If you need more room, we have an entire building. Please ask us on Indian or Gorillas. If you need space, we have a community building.
Take their card too.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It wouldn't cost anything.
That's great. Looking for free space.
Yes.
Hey, and anybody else watching, give them some free space.
It is a community space, please. It is our entire community, not just this place. It's the
Thank you.
entire community. If you need
Thank you.
something, please.
Thank you so much. All right. No more questions or comments or contributions from the public. All right. With that, thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're zooming on. Everybody still okay? Okay. I'll take that as a yes. Exodus is next. I think I saw you all online. Oh, you're here. Hey. Hey, hey.
I was working out there while I was waiting. I don't want to miss it. Hey, everybody, how you doing? I'm Erin. So I'm the director of Exodus Refugee here in Bloomington, the Refugee Resettlement Network. Some of you probably have heard of us. And so our mission is to protect the human rights of people who are fleeing persecution around the world and serving their resettlement needs here in Indiana. We serve refugees, parolees, essentially immigration statuses of humanitarian concern, people fleeing for their life, not people here for economic reasons. We've served people from over 20 different countries, including Afghanistan, Syria, the Congo. And we have welcomed almost 500 refugees since we opened in October 2021 here in Bloomington. So we provide all the upfront services to people that arrive. And this includes everything from picking them up at the airport, setting up housing, education, medical care, employment, pay your bills, you're fully self-sufficient. And we also, we ensure that process the whole time, right? And so I'll get into that in a second. So some of you may know I spoke at the city council meeting last month, but the Trump administration has completely shut down this program, and it is being fought out in the courts right now. A federal court, surprise, surprise, is telling Trump to restart the program. There were 20,000 refugees that were set to come, canceled all their flights. They're supposed to start that program, but he's not complying. They also nationally cut benefits to refugees. They get Medicaid and cash assistance. That was cut from 12 months to 4 months. So what are we doing now, I think, is some of the questions that people have. So it's important to understand, right, adjustment doesn't happen in 3 months, okay? It can take years for many people, and actually the programs that we do allow us to serve people for up to 5 years from the date they arrive. And it's also critical that we remain open, because if refugees are gonna be welcomed again, we need to be there to do it, but we also need to serve the individuals and the families that are in Bloomington and ensure they're successful. And that's sort of 4 programs that we have. One is an extended case management program, which is essentially needs beyond the first 3 months. A classic example, we have a woman, a very serious medical diagnosis, lost her health insurance, and at a critical time to get care for her diagnosis, and within less than 24 hours, we reinstated the health insurance to ensure that she got her medical care. If we weren't there, we're not sure what would have happened. I don't know if you're familiar with FSSA, but they have very outdated, burdensome, problematic requirements to retain your benefits in the state of Indiana. And so, sorry, I'm being too blunt, but so you know, people would lose critical things like food stamps if we weren't there to help sort of to mend the situations they get into. Employment is another program. We actually have many refugees still unemployed that we welcomed at the end of 2024. So we still have people that need to become self-sufficient here. A good example of someone who needs long-term needs, we had a woman, she's pre-literate, not a lot of experience with working, lost a job to a cultural misunderstanding, she's still unemployed, and we are essentially sort of that the line between her and homelessness right now as we're working to find her a job. We have a mental health program. Surprise, surprise, there's a lot of significant gaps in Bloomington with mental health care. I know, it's wild, right? Now I want you to add on the fact that you don't speak English and maybe you don't have health insurance. And so we provide in-house services at no cost, and over 30%, I'm the therapist, by the way, and over 30% of my caseload has serious mental illness. And then our final program is legal. Legal's changing every day. It's sort of an absolute nightmare in the immigration world. And so our attorneys are constantly responding to the changes, so helping people apply for green cards, citizenship. Parolees are really under attack right now, helping them to apply for asylum. So those are the programs that we're working on right now. To address your question about funding, so in 2024, 75% of our agency had our budget from federal sources. And with the change in the presidential administration, these funds are absolutely in transition, and some have been completely terminated, as I referenced earlier. We expect some funding to continue to come through federally through job placement, case management, and education to continue to FY26. We're on the federal fiscal year. And, but we anticipate those are also going to get frozen or cut in the future. So we're transitioning a lot of our funding to private right now to be able to continue our services for the people that are here and keep the promises that our country made to people feeling for their lives. And I want to leave you with a quote. I know I'm over time. It was from a young woman from Congo. And she said, "Nobody wants to be a refugee. It's not a choice. Nobody wants to leave their life behind and leave where they come. Exodus has played a big role in my life and my resettlement journey. Exodus showed me where I belong. And there are people who care about me and took steps to make sure I was secure and supported on this journey of starting life over in America. Being a refugee means that while there is something bad back home, there's the chance of going somewhere to build your life, and this is worth it." Thank you all.
Thank you. Questions? So of the 150,000 is the overall estimated project cost, and you have 100,000 that's still pending from an anonymous donor. Yeah. When will you have a sense of when that?
I think within a month. I think within a month we should have that confirmed, and that has been an anonymous donor has supported us since day one that we opened up here in Bloomington. So we're confident, right? Yeah.
And so what you're asking for the committee from this committee is from Hopkins Social Committee from this committee is the gap amount between what you've already secured in individual funds and the overall cost for this year.
Yeah,
right?
and I think you guys understand how this works, right? Like the more money that we have within flexibility of funding, the more flexibility we can be in our services. Yeah. So that's sort of where we're landing right now, our needs for the year. Yeah, but the more money, less problems is the idea. Yeah.
And you said trips were canceled, but there are currently refugees in town that are needing services right now.
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
Gotcha.
I'd say. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for your answers. Any other questions, comments, inputs?
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you all. Have a good night so much.
Girls Inc. is next.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Olivia Sullivan. I'm the Director of Operations at Girls Inc. in Monroe County, and I am joined by Alec Blake, our Program Director. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Girls Inc., we are a nonprofit organization that serves girls ages 5 to 18. Our mission is to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. We've been in the Bloomington area for about 51 years this year. We did have a pause during the pandemic where we had to shut down completely and reopen in 2021. We went from serving 0 girls in 2021 to serving 620 girls last year. So we are growing very quickly, expanding our programs. We serve girls through camps, evening programs, in-school programming, and we also do a period project in partner with SCAP, actually. We partner with at least 10 different MCCSC schools. In our in-school programs, we do things like conflict resolution. We have Operation SMART, which is STEM programming. We do mentorship and mind and body, which covers body image, stress management, physical activity, nutrition. We like to also combine all of those things into our summer camp as well. We have 3 different age groups, our 5 to 7 year olds, as our Shiro camp, all about encouraging them to be strong and introducing them to strong role models in our community. We try to present them with opportunities to meet strong female women doing powerful things in our community. Same with our STEMinist camp, with our focus being on women in STEM coming in to do things with the girls. And then our She Leads camp, where we provide them with positive challenges like kayaking, rock climbing, things for them to overcome together, maybe something they didn't see themselves being able to accomplish, but we're there supporting them along with their group of friends. So one question you all had was, how does our grant fit the Jack Hopkins mission? As a youth serving organization, we are helping build the next generation of leaders to create a stronger, smarter, and bolder future that will trickle down to future generations. And we see this already. We see this with our alumni that continue to bring their girls to Girls Inc. programs. And as a social services organization, we create opportunities and provide tools for the youth of our community to grow and overcome obstacles, leading to a brighter future for all. We also see this in a little bit more of a short-term view. Girls coming every year to summer camp, the same girls doing in-school programming in 4th, 5th, 6th grade into middle school as well. So they keep coming back, they continue to do new curriculum with us as well, and so we've been able to grow with them. Just another side note, the reason we're able to be here today is because Shelbyville Girls Inc., our affiliate there, they actually adopted us, acquired us. And so while you'll see in our application that it says we have 14 staff members, like full-time staff members, that's across us and Shelbyville. We have a DBA from Monroe County, and there are 4 of us here doing all of these different programs, 4 full-time staff members. So as we grow, as our numbers grow, we are looking to have the funds to continue to grow and to be able to serve more girls in our community. Right now, with summer camp coming up, we have approximately 15 girls who are waiting on scholarships. So they cannot attend our camp unless they have a scholarship. And then we have about 20 girls on a wait list to attend summer camp as well, and we just don't have the space and the staffing to be able to take them on. So this grant would help us to continue to grow and to serve more girls in our community. Any questions for us?
You might have already shared this number, but in terms of what is attendance at summer camp as a whole look like?
Summer camp as a whole, you want to touch on it? You want me to finish? Yeah. Last year we had about 120 girls sign up. And then this year we cut back numbers quite a bit because last year we were feeling like we were losing that Girls Inc. experience. So we are at 80 girls signed up for summer camp this year. And if you've been to our space at all, you know it is small and mighty. We do not have the gym anymore, so we have to be very careful and look at logistics as far as like planning field trips, and we try to have about 60 girls in the center at one time, which is still a lot of girls for our small, we call it small but mighty, so. But.
So would you be pushing your numbers back up if you had the funding for the?
Yes, that allows us to hire more staff members for summer as well, and then being able to provide any scholarships for the girls as well to attend.
How much does the summer camp cost?
Yeah, so the prices vary. Sorry. The prices vary. For Shiro camp, it's $100 a week. This year it's a 6-week camp. For STEMinist camp, it's $125 a week, and for She Leads camp, that's going to be $150 a week.
Okay, so question then is compare the scholarships to personnel expenses. So if we, if you fund, what is it? I guess actually, what does the money go to for the cost? That's actually that was the in between question that I needed to ask. Sorry. Yeah.
For camp, for like what it
yeah.
pays
So
for.
yeah. What is the 100 a week or 190 a week? What is it?
So it goes to personnel costs as well. We provide breakfast and snack for the girls. We do partner with Community Kitchen for parts of that, but to programming supplies. So that all just goes right back into providing for them for the camp.
And field trips.
And field trips, yes,
yes,
yeah. Transportation.
That's a big part of our expenses.
And the reason I was trying to ask is trying to understand the balance of that is personnel expenses, because one of the things that you also asked is personnel expenses. So which has a bigger impact directly on students participating in the summer camp, as an example. Imagine. Yeah, just proportionately how much of the personnel expenses are going towards summer camp time.
So for this particular grant, all the personnel expenses would be going to summer camp staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of indirectly a scholarship in many ways.
Yes,
Right.
indirectly. Yeah. The more staff we have, the more girls we can take on. So.
Any other questions? Anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, anything to add?
No, I think you covered it. So, yeah. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all the
We
work you
have
do.
2 minutes.
Yeah, would it be okay if we just took we're 10 minutes ahead of time, actually 13 minutes ahead of time. So, yeah, if we can just take a quick bio break. So let us reconvene no later than 7:55. All right. I'll call us back into order and into session. And we will continue with Indiana Recovery Alliance.
Hello?
Hello.
You guys I'm Nick, and this is Scotty. Hope you starting to join us. Scotty's our one of the supervisors over there, who's been here a long time. He's absolutely integral to what we do. And so I thought I'd start bringing him places so people get to know him. He's an amazing human being. I would not be able to do my job without him. You guys had a question of what we did last year. For some reason, we had just lost a staff. There was a secondary staff. She went on to do she got pregnant and had some other stuff she was doing, and so now she's with another company. What that left was me thinking she had already reported to you guys from the, this just happened, so I thought she'd already sent a report. So when you guys asked me what had happened last year, I wanted to explain what happened last year with what we did. This is Scotty. We asked for funds to have, there's rapid rehousing, and there's Built for Zero and those. Scotty's on the board, so you're going to talk a little bit about that. That's what we did. We funded him to be able to do that. Every single grant we've ever gotten from you guys funded a position and gave us success. We have never had a Jack Hopkins position that didn't turn into a long-lasting position or something that we've done with. We consider this... When I first started, I started writing for money. And then I realized writing for money doesn't get you anywhere. You have to write for a program. It has to be a program or something that you need the money for. That was a big change for me because I didn't understand that, you know? I thought, get the money, get the money, get the money, get the money. If you write for the money, that's what you get. That's it, the money. So I started writing for a program and for specific things, and it changed everything. A development director, right now what we're asking for is a new grant writer. These things all pushed us into where we are now, and it takes a team, especially with something like the opioid crisis and dealing with people in recovery. It's not that simple. It takes an integrated team. I can't do it alone, especially working I was disabled before I worked, and so I'm partially disabled now. And so working as someone who's disabled, I need people who can do other stuff I can't do, One of the things that happened was Scotty started to, instead of just being, a certain service manager, started doing all this other work. And one of the things he did is he joined Built for Zero. So if you want to talk about your time for Built for Zero, so you can explain what you do.
I got approached by some folks that asked me to be a consultant for Built for Zero. For those of you who don't,
The national or
yes, a national organization.
But here,
South Central Indiana.
Cool.
I'm a consultant on that board. I have been to Washington D.C. with them to a conference with our mayor as well. They're doing amazing work, and I think we are doing amazing work together, and I wouldn't have that opportunity if it wasn't for you guys,
Why are you on the board?
I'm on the board because I have lived experience in being unhoused, and I believe that things are not just right now. Especially in Bloomington. We are not, I don't think we are addressing this crisis properly, and I want to be consulted on boards that I think are actually moving forward to do things to better the situation.
One of the things Scotty brought up to me, and we're looking into now, is the idea of, yes, there's these things, we talk to Beacon, we talk to everyone, we're all friends, we have the same kind of missions, And one of the things Beacon is doing with their new camp, right, with the new thing they're building, right? One of the things that doesn't get addressed is people who maybe are on the edge of moving out of that type of situation into maybe other housing, and then people that are semi-chaotic who need extra help. Not just the help that's there, but actual live-in help, do you know what I mean? So some people are really hard to house. What our hope is someday, and this has nothing to do with this grant, I'm just explaining a little bit of him, is that we can have houses that are communal living houses, but with help. with harm reduction and recovery help. So we recently became a recovery community organization. The reason we did this is we realized harm reduction and recovery need to join hands. It is not okay to be separated. And if you guys don't know what this is, there's this kind of rift between abstinence-based and non-abstinence-based. People get it mixed up that people who are in harm reduction are saying it's okay to use drugs. And that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is we want you to live through your drug use and recover. And so a lot of times it's really hard to do that when there's this. So we're trying to build that gap. We wanted to be the show the change. Do you know what I mean? So now we have a certain service program with a recovery option. The point is to have someone who's in abstinence-based recovery for their first little bit and someone who's in chaotic use, so that people get in the same places that are safe, which is hard to do. It requires a lot of peer help. It requires a lot of oversight. It requires a lot of accountability. We now have an LCSW there full-time. So because we needed someone who had enough chops to be able to say, when there's a situation, I'm not an LCSW, I know what I know, but they can be right there. Do you know what I mean? We recently had someone who, one of our outreach workers, who had witnessed some stuff happen to somebody that was really violent. And in the second they came back from that outreach, she was there. Do you know what I mean? The idea of changing all of this into just this haphazard muzzle and something that can actually work and sustain, to where when we're talking 5 years from now, it's grown into something that's really sustainable for Bloomington, has the flavor of Bloomington. Indiana has amazing harm reduction, you guys. Amazing, all across the nation. All across the state. One of the things we lack right now is a grant writer. I can write them, but if I write grants all day, that's what I'm doing all day. I have 8,000 other functions, and being an ED at a harm reduction place is madness sometimes. It's a lot of time. So we have a person who's an epidemiologist right now at the state, and he's part-time working for us. He's going to come over as soon as he gets his stuff. We chose to hire someone, instead of looking for the normal person I would have hired, we looked for someone for the talent this time. And we realized one of the problems we have is our ethos has been to hire people with lived experience, right? That's the base. And we feel that people with lived experience need to lead this thing. But we need other people, we need other help. There's stuff we don't know, you know? And too long, that charge has been that. So this person may not have much lived experience, but he understands the plight, and he understands what it's like, and he's willing to help us in a way that's different, you know?
Is he going to be full-time, or it's okay, so full-time?
We'll transition. Right now I'm only asking for half-time. I want to fund him all the way, and I do have funds for the full-time. We're working
That's the 60,000 salary?
Yeah, so when we're working on, I didn't know you could ask for more this year, by the way, just if so I would have asked for much, much more. But I just keep it that way because I don't want to I don't want to text you guys, I don't want to
How much more would you ask for?
40, easily.
Why?
It would let him see that I had the money right then to do it. You know, okay, so when the funding froze, it froze for a little bit, but we're getting them back in now. But it was scary, I had to lay people off, you know? I had to drop my salary. You know, I would have taken all of my salary off first. You know what I mean? I don't care, this is my life, you know?
So what's in the grant, what you've requested now is 20,000 from what you think is going to be 60,000 salary, right?
So it's the way to begin this part of it. We have other funding.
Okay.
He would hopefully get a peer recovery coach certificate, as all of us have to do.
Yeah.
And then that would allow for the funding. But without a peer recovery coach certificate, it's really hard to get state funding.
Sure.
So the goal would be to have him funded. You're talking about a person who has a full degree in epidemiology. You're talking about someone who has worked at the health department before. Yeah. His name is Brandon Collins. He's a known quantity. Me and Kathy Hewitt have talked about this. This is nothing I do outside this. We partner with the health department. So in a way, that's one of the pride and joys of our stuff, is that we actually have a great relationship with them and we work together. So that this was all discussed with everyone before it ever started. But he is also someone who needs health insurance, other things. Yeah. I can't just offer him this without it being something I can say yes. He knows you guys. He knows our stuff. He's well aware of things because he's worked with us. So for me to say, here's $20,000, that's a great start, then I have to secure the other money. And I'm not going to do that or lie to him and tell him anything else. I refuse to be dishonest, and I refuse to have a place that's not transparent. You know, I think that people who have lived experience have to be more transparent than the next people. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, our society sees that as differently. So what I did is I showed him our entire books, our QuickBooks, everything, to try and explain to him here's what we are, here's our funding, everything. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's the only way we can get forward anymore. So that's what I ask.
I worked with Brandon 4 days a week for a long time doing outreach, and Brandon is amazing. I learned so much from him, and he would be a great addition.
Great. Any other questions from the committee?
Please, any questions? It's the thing is like well, I know I'm long-winded and I'll stop after this. The thing is, we're moving into space now where things are getting murky, and we need to make sure that we have the right people that can do the job, and we can no longer rely on unusual things. We're trying to diversify our funding. We just started a relationship with the Methodist Church here that was instead of where I'd jump at a grant real quick, we decided to have a long-term relationship. So I'm starting to see, I've grown a little bit in my executive directorship. We're starting to look at different power structures, different stuff like that. And I feel like our community is a safer place than most. It's a different place than most. And I think having Brandon would increase what we do, or I wouldn't do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
everything
guys.
you do in the community. Thank you.
I do want to say one more thing, yes.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. I think it's horrible that the opioid funding hasn't gone to these grants. City funding should go to these grants. You guys are known entities. We know you. You know us. You know if I'm a bad actor. You know if there's bad actors. If there's any way I can advocate for that, for the city opioid funding to go to you guys, it should go to grants that are already known. It should go to people that we know are good actors. You guys aren't going to let me hear if I'm a bad actor. You all know what goes on, you know? And if I am, you're not going to fund me. I just want to say that that's something maybe we could talk about at some point. That like, what if we did have that here? What if people could get robust funding? What if we could give Girls Inc. $100,000? You know, like, so I just want to say that.
You're here. All right, well, thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on. Lantern Support Services. Thank you.
Thank you guys for everything.
Thank you.
Regardless, you guys have been amazing.
It was nice to meet everyone.
It's so good to meet you.
See a lot more of this guy.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, be careful going home.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Hi there. I'm Sky Adams, and I'm the Executive Director of Lantern Support Services. We're new in town, and we're really excited to be here. We're, as a baby entity, we serve foster, kinship, collaborative care, and adoptive families and individuals. We aren't the only agency that serves that population, but what we do is provide hands-on help in the home, programming and resources to these families to mitigate some of the adverse experiences that these kids and families have. The program that we're asking to be funded is a position for a family specialist. So this family advocate would be able to make connections for the services that we provide, connecting with specifically kinship families. So kinship, that's how I got into this work. When we use a couple terms that aren't well known to the public, and that's part of our mission is advocacy. So kinship and collaborative care are terms you probably come across less frequently than foster and adopt. Kinship, that's when a family member or a loved one takes care of a kid that is not their bio kid. And there are two forms of kinship. There's state recognized kinship and then informal kinship. Informal kinship, that's where grandma or aunt takes on their nephew or their granddaughter. And that's where my heart just breaks, because there aren't funds available for these families, and you don't hear about these families, and it's usually a working class family, and it's usually a grandmother, and it's usually somebody who's just about to face retirement, and then suddenly she has a 12-year-old who's throwing the iPad at the wall again after he just bought $300 worth of Robux, and she doesn't even know what that is. And her daughter is on meth. Like, it's a heartbreaking story. And then, where are you going to find these? They're usually women. It's not exclusively women. But where are you going to find them? Like, they seldom have time to go to church, because if they're going to church, that's when their grandson is throwing something at the wall. And they're not just telling their story left and right. So when we find these women, these families, it's through collaborating with other agencies like Resources of Hope, and just south of Indy, and through CASA and DCS, we find some families. But what we'd like to do is to provide them with a support group. That's one of our current projects that is successful, support groups run for the parents of foster, kinship, and adoptive families, but we're trying to expand that. We're at capacity right now, and that feels really exciting, and that there are more families asking for the support. We're also very excited to expand and address those needs. Collaborative care, just to kind of close the loop on that, that's when a kid who is less in need of parenting than funding and support, somebody who is, let's say, 15, 16, who's actually starting to function on their own, who's maybe a difficult kid to place in a foster home or adoptive home. These kids who are able to function independently get some funding, but they're still very isolated. And what we would like to do for those families, for those individuals, is to provide support groups also. So being able to be seen, connected to each other, that's one of the major benefits of our services. Thickening these relationships that exist between our volunteers and the families, that's a critical component, and between the families and each other. So these isolated kinship families, being able to meet with each other, connect with each other, and relate to each other, is hugely nourishing and supportive. So that's what we're looking for.
Fantastic. Questions from the committee?
I was just curious, are you associated at all with the CAP support group, the Kids with Absent Parents? It's mostly families that are dealing with a parent who's incarcerated, and that's where the kinship care, usually temporary, hopefully, takes place. Are you associated with CAP at all?
We are, and Mary Gatesy just recently died. Yeah, and she is an inspiration, and she was part of the inspiration for a lot of our services. So we are, and we're looking to kind of shelter some of the services that she and her team provided.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So in the application, you when the priorities you had, and I'm hoping I recall correctly, I should just pull it up, but you had it was like 19 something, or is that saying that if you either want to pay the person this or this, I was little, yeah, like what?
Yeah. We're kind of new to grant writing. So there's some flexibility in that amount based on the credentials of the social worker.
Got it, okay.
So if there's a degree in progress, that's one amount.
I see, okay, so you're saying, depending on how, so you're giving us options of funding here, like the question that we've been asking everyone, it's like, what would happen if we didn't give you the full amount? Yes. You're saying, well, either fund it at this or at this, yes, and this would be the implications of funding it that way.
Yeah.
Got it. And is that the full salary? Is this a part-time job?
It's a part-time position, and we would love to be able to ask for more. We looked at your past projects that you've funded, and we were trying to ballpark what we thought would be fundable. If we could pay somebody more, we have a set of tasks at the ready that are all volunteer-powered right now, that we would love to roll into a funded position to expand our services.
All right, a question. Let me see if I can figure out how to phrase this. With the kinship, what is the difference between what that's going to provide and what's already provided for the government in terms of foster? Because foster is mentioned here, so it's going to be people who are we're still in foster care, but specifically with kinship placements, that is going to be the support. And is it because of the lack of funding on that side? And that's that's a gap that you're going to fill in regards to, that's different from a foster child who is more likely to get more funding from the government than kinship, and with the difference between the collaborative care of both, because I'm familiar with collaborative care. I am a foster parent of youths actually, so I'm interested to know, like, what is it, the differences in that, and what are you going to provide that is going to be beneficial and not say a separate thing that is kind of only focusing on kinship rather than children that are in foster care and in collaborative care.
Right. This is a great question, and it gets kind of toward the philosophy, I think, of what we're about. So with the services that are provided to the foster and adoptive families, a lot of those families know about our services because they have caseworkers or a team or a community around them informing them that we exist and that we're doing this, that we're providing some of these services. The specialists that we're wanting to hire would go actively seeking out kinship families to find them because they're harder to find. There's not a central hub. There's not a Facebook group. The closest we found is, I think there's parents of addicts. I think that implies kinship a little bit. And of course, Head Start has a lot of kinship placements, so we're working with them. But what we do is a lot of the same services that are being offered to even kinship families currently. We just don't have very many. Expanding the support services that we provide. Did that answer your question?
I know that kinship gets less funding than typical foster, way less actually. I was surprised by that.
Yes.
But I don't know if that was a state thing because my reference is from Columbus, Ohio, not Indiana. So I don't know if it's the same here.
Only in August did they start funding kinship families. And those are only the ones that know about the option. So there are kinship families that exist that aren't funded at all. Yeah.
So you have already identified a population, but you're struggling to find more of the same?
Yes, and we're at capacity right now. If we found them, we
wouldn't know it.
We'd be limited in how much we could provide. Yep.
So could you help us understand the amount of people impacted? I mean, the estimate was 20 to 25 kinship families, and this is really self-referential. I'm trying to understand because, I mean, you know, we asked the question, but then it's not actually an equitable way of comparing across projects, right? Because some of it one-time investment, sometimes. So explain to us, like, give me the granular understanding of what we're talking about, like this investment will mean for these 20 to 25 families.
So by funding this project, what the families would get is a space that they are desperate for. That doesn't seem like a granular piece of data for you, though. They are desperate for connection to each other because they're so isolated. Am I getting close to what you're asking?
Yes,
Doctor?
yeah. And is this, are we thinking that this, does this last for a year, 7 years, 10 years, a lifetime? Like I'm trying to size the impact here.
Yeah. We're also going to start facilitating connections between families. Yeah. So veteran, foster, and adoptive families are going to be able to mentor new foster and kinship families to, like, hey, this is what's going on. And that does kind of add to the long-term impact. By facilitating those relationships, we'll be able to kind of empower them to help each other on their own terms, which is, again, that model that we're looking for. And this specific position, we're hoping to make it into a permanent position that's larger than what we're asking for.
Excellent.
Is it what was I thinking? Is it an opt-in type program? And what was the other question I was gonna ask? Is there an age average as to the kids? Because I know with collaborative care, there's a certain expectation, at least the typical one that works with the state, there's an expectation in terms of age and meeting certain requirements to stay in the program. So is that gonna be based off of that, or is it gonna be a separate type structured?
This is opt-in. There's no requirements for participation. If you are impacted by living in a foster, kinship, collaborative care, or adoptive situation, you meet the requirements for our services.
And the age?
The age, I couldn't give you off the top of my head an average. The youngest is an infant. The oldest, I think, has been around 15, 14, around there. And our collaborative care services are virtually non-existent. We have a board member who was in collaborative care when she joined the board, and she said that she had a lot of community that was looking for support, and we haven't been able to provide that yet.
So is there age cutoff?
No. The oldest family member is in her.
Not in terms of the family member, in terms of the so you go based off of the family member and not the child that
It's
is
both.
in.
It's both. If you're impacted by participation in any of these 4 categories, FKCA, foster, kinship, collaborative care, and adopt, if you're impacted by that, we're there.
Thank you so much, just for starting this organization. For obviously you've been in this community for a long time, but for the organization being in this community, and thank you for taking the time to be here tonight. We're so appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We have a New Hope for Families.
Okay.
I think
It's gonna be.
Chase
Yeah, so Chase
presenting.
online.
Chase is yeah, there you go.
Hello. There you are.
All right, we on?
We're on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, everybody, for your service on the committee and for these late nights. It makes a huge impact on the community. My name's Chase. I'm here with New Hope for Families. We have 2 major programs. One is our family shelter. The other is our early learning center. That's a birth to 5 preschool. The family shelter shelters people who would otherwise sleep outside or in their vehicle, who have minor children with them. Families move quickly through the crisis of homelessness, out of the shelter into a place to live. They just get income, they get childcare, they pair that income with a place to live. More than 8 in 10 do, they do it on average in 3 months. That would not be possible without our early learning center, because many of the families we serve are young themselves, and they have young kids, birth to 5, and they can't afford childcare. So they can use the early learning center while they're in shelter until they can move on into stable housing. They can stay enrolled. Half the enrollment at the early learning center is reserved for families who have been affected by homelessness. And still more are low income, using the CCDF voucher to subsidize their child care. The grant we're requesting is for our early learning center. We're requesting funds to put up 2 shade sail structures in the early learning center's outdoor playgrounds. The early learning center enrolls more than 48 students. We've got 4 classrooms for different age groups, and in a highly accredited pass to quality program like our center, you think of your playground like an outdoor classroom. The teachers are setting up the same kind of sensory experiences and having the same kind of planning outside as they are inside, teaching kids all kinds of things through their sensory experiences, both indoors and outdoors. We also find that a lot of the students that we have who live in apartments or come from a low-income background just don't have as much access to green space and outside as their higher-income counterparts. So these outdoor spaces are really important to us. We've got 4 seasons in lovely Bloomington, and all of the seasons on Earth are just getting hotter and hotter. And our building is on the south side of these 2 playgrounds, so we can't plant trees or shrubs or anything to shade them. And the shade sails will come overhead and make it so that we can extend play in those big outdoor spaces. We looked around for shade sails that would be durable, that would be attractive, that would do the job, and we were able to find these high quality products through PlayPro. So you can see the quote that's attached there. There are already 2 small shade sails installed on the 2 south side playgrounds, and these are the two more that we need to finish out all of our outdoor playground spaces. They come with a 10-year warranty. They have a longer expected life. You can take the sails off in the winter to preserve their lifespan. So we think this is a one-time cost that's going to have years and years of investment for kids who need it most, kids who need to get outside and have those early learning experiences we want to offer them. So that's the grant. That's what we're looking to do with the Jack Hopkins funds this year. What questions you guys have for me?
Hey, that's the question I was going to ask. What questions do you guys have?
Questions from the committee? Going once.
I guess I have one.
Please ask.
How long, so after the family no longer needs New Hope assistance for emergency shelter purposes, can children still take advantage of the early learning center, still get the child care needs met, like even after the parent moves into maybe employment? And is there a limit on the duration of child care availability?
No, the limit's on the other side. Once you're in, and you're enrolled. The model of the Early Learning Center is, we hope, for kids to enter as an infant, go for their first 3 years as toddlers. They get the same teachers as they move through the classrooms, and then the pre-K, the room is for kids 3 to 5. So they have a different set of teachers there for those 3 years. So we want kids to have that long continuity and connection with teachers, and we want them to have those stable and long-term relationships. So you can get into the Early Learning Center much faster, and you can be prioritized in, and you can pay just $10 a week if you are entering from shelter. So it's easy to get in because the shelter program needs those parents to get jobs. And then once you're in, and you can remain as long as you'd like. Some families who, this is true for whether they have come from shelter or not, they'll go to the MCCSE pre-K in their last year if they have an older sibling that's already there at the school. Some people will leave the shelter. You can't have visitors at the shelter, but once people get back into affordable housing, then they can have family members babysit, or one of them can work part-time, and they can mix the child care a little bit differently. So sometimes families choose to disenroll. But once you're in, we're committed to help working families retain and maintain their employment.
Hey, thank you. I didn't fully understand that, so thank you.
Any other questions, y'all? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. Okay, our next People and Animal Learning Services and their collaboration with Centerstone. Hello.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to be here. My name is Chris Herring. I'm the Executive Director of PALS. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we've been a part of the Bloomington community for 25 years. It's our silver anniversary this year. So we are known for our adaptive writing program. Most folks know us for that. But over the past 3 years, it became very important to us to really look at the community and how our work could impact some of the greatest needs. So we developed something called our special programs, using something called equine assisted learning. And basically what it is with our certified instructors, it's learning skills, life skills that are taught through experiential learning with horses, utilizing the human-horse connection, helping people reflect on what their communications are. The horses really mirror that right back to them, and things like emotional regulation, things like communication skills, body language, learning how to read those important things in life are great skills learned from this work. So what we're asking for this funding is to continue programming that we've actually been providing now for 12 years with Indiana Center for Recovery. That was our first equine-assisted learning project. And that was a pilot project. And so we ended up getting funding through the Community Foundation. And that funding was specifically for nonprofits. Indiana Center for Recovery is for-profit. And we wanted our community nonprofit partners to be able to have the opportunity for their clients to utilize these services. It was very successful. The most important thing in recovery for a lot of these folks is developing self-esteem, feeling confident, becoming better stewards of their own mental health, in that things like stress reduction, being able to self-regulate, and this work really does help with that. So what we're seeking is 6 months of funding for us to continue very successful partnership and work with Centerstone. They currently have no funding for this type of activity, and we're wanting to continue. We know this partnership works. We are able to provide 480 client service hours, and how that's figured is people in recovery drop in and come out. So we can't say from the beginning of this project to the end of it, X number of people will get X number of hours of service. So we look at it, then we can serve 10 clients per hour, twice a week. And so that totals at 480 client service hours for 6 months. So some of the interesting data that we have from this work is we take pre and post surveys, and those surveys actually have from before the session begins to after the session ends. And we look at things like anger, anxiousness, hopelessness, these sorts of feelings that really contribute to one's self-esteem. So for example, the folks from their pre to post, their anger dropped 59%. And this is, let's see, how many folks? 327 client service hours is what this is from. 59% less angry, 42% less anxious, 54% feeling less hopeless, 53% less depressed, 52% less stressed out. The impacts are really significant. Helping these folks really feel more grounded and able to continue with their addiction recovery. Although this isn't the front line, this is a recreational activity with therapeutic benefits that really help people who are going through recovery. So anyone have any questions?
You anticipated my first question, which was, understanding how we got to that number of 480.
Right.
So thank you so much for that. Could you break down a little bit where exactly the money goes to? And I mean, maybe a way of doing that is explaining to us, if we doubled this money, does that mean you get 12 months of it? I mean,
Yes.
Okay. And so, yeah, so tell us.
So basically 50% of the funding that we ask for covers our base hourly rate for lessons. This is not including horses or instructors, it's our overhead to provide services. Then 23% would include staff time, which is 2 instructors, certified instructors that are there to provide the service. And then 27% is our actual horse cost. That's for 2 to 5 horses per hour for this training. So people share a horse. In other words, if we have 10 people, there are 5 horses and 2 instructors.
And if we don't misinterpret this question, just trying to better understand, if we did not fund this, what happens?
If you did not fund this, we continue searching for additional funding.
Okay, so you're not able to do this without the funds?
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. That's really how our programming is funded,
Yeah.
this particular type that impacts
Got
the
it.
community.
Got it.
Yeah. Any horse questions? I love those. You know, why horses? Why are horses important to this work? But they are.
Great. Any other questions?
Great.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, thank you for the work you do.
Sure. I love coming to these, most importantly, because I get to learn about what everyone else is doing in their good work. So it's very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a great night.
for being here.
Sure.
Okay, our next is Planned Parenthood.
I believe they're on Zoom.
Oops. Hang on a minute. Appreciate it. Yep.
Hey everyone.
There he is.
Hello.
I guess took me a second to unmute and everything.
No worries.
It's good to know it's still sunny outside.
No kidding.
Well, hi, yeah. I am Stephen Conrad from Planned Parenthood, Great Northwest, Hawaii, Alaska, Indiana, Kentucky, this giant 6 statewide Planned Parenthood affiliate. But of course, here requesting funding just for our Bloomington Health Center at 2nd and College. A quick overview, I think folks are probably familiar with us, but we're a safety net, family planning, and sexual health care provider, meaning that no matter a patient's insurance status or ability to pay out of pocket, we help folks access a number of things, the main services being birth control and contraception, pregnancy testing and evaluation, comprehensive HIV and STI services, cancer screenings and treatment, gender-affirming hormone care, and general wellness exams, just primary health services. And while we no longer provide any abortion care or miscarriage management in Indiana, we do staff a patient navigator who helps folks access those services out of state, or even on IU Health in Indianapolis if the patient fits within Indiana's abortion ban exceptions. We are requesting money just to help subsidize the cost of care. This is really similar to what we requested the past couple of years. So specifically to subsidize the cost of care for folks who can't pay for whatever reason, they're uninsured, aren't able to use insurance, or living at or below 150% of the federal poverty level, which is about 65% of our patient population. We serve about 2,400 patients a year. And even for folks who are insured, you know, it can be difficult to cover the cost of a high deductible, or maybe they need something not covered by their plan. So this is what the funding would help reimburse us for providing. And I'm conscientious that this is the same grant we requested last year, and just the reality is we remain under immense financial duress. The new federal administration has frozen all of our Title X funding. The legislative session isn't over yet. Here in Indiana will be soon, but it's looking like the breast and cervical cancer program will be completely eliminated, so no more reimbursements from that. Medicaid reimbursement rates are already lower than the cost of providing care. We lose money on all of our Medicaid patients, and it's looking like there's going to be some significant cuts to Medicaid coverage post-session that will largely impact our patient population. So 2025 and the next year is really going to be our big years of stabilizing and making tough decisions. The board is rolling out a 25% operating cut from our expenses, which thus far across all 6 states we serve, not just in Bloomington, but we've eliminated basically all of our sex education and advocacy programs. In Indianapolis, right now we're in the process of closing down our admin building, which has sort of been our Indiana headquarters the past couple of decades. And we're now looking at closing health centers. Most recently, we've closed up shop in Juneau, Alaska, and Twin Falls, Idaho. And it is I can't say 100%, but nearly certain we'll be closing a few Indiana health centers by the end of the year. And as of today, I have not been told Bloomington is slated for closure, which I do think is because of the philanthropic support and just sort of community-wide support we receive in Bloomington versus some other communities where we face a bit more hostility. So then, as you know, as we cut our expenses pretty significantly, we're also in the early stages of launching a comprehensive fundraising campaign to help us sustain at least the next 4 years and try to minimize closures. All while, you know, we're still trying to innovate and expand services, grow patient volumes. We've recently launched a virtual health center serving folks from all over Indiana. Just last week, we signed a physician who's going to launch vasectomy services in Bloomington for the first time. We're looking to roll out point-of-contact syphilis testing and bicillin treatment for pregnant patients with syphilis, which is a growing need throughout the whole state, really. Ultimately, by the budget cuts and our comprehensive campaign, our goal is to regain financial sustainability by the end of 2027. But until then, we just remain very, very dependent on donations and grants like Jack Hopkins just to stay open and continue providing care to everyone, no matter their ability to pay. So thank you very much for considering our grant again this year, and happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I think it was pretty thorough on how bleak it is for Planned Parenthood. So,
But it does
I appreciate the
lead
candor.
to, I mean, it
yeah.
does lead to, I think the committee's question was why are you not asking for more?
Great question. The real answer is $7,500 has been our grant amount the past couple of years. I'm also aware that this is operational funding for us. It's not a one-time investment, which I know is the primary intent of the Jack Hopkins grant program. I would say the actual need of patient financial assistance in Bloomington is probably around $300,000 a year. So we basically raise as much money as we can and subsidize the cost of care for as many patients as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for your time, Stephen.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next one is Restore and Habitat for Humanity.
Hi, I'm Ron Smith.
Thank you for being here so long, Ron.
It's like, feels like old times. Like 3-hour meetings, 4-hour meetings.
There's
Yeah, wow.
We're going fast though.
You're doing a fantastic job. Really, it's going really well. So I'm here to talk about the grant applications in the Restore Refugee Employment Program that kind of evolved. Tried to say it in the application. It just kind of evolved, and we were in the back. I work there now. We were in the back. We were talking about it, and I was like, "Well, you have a program. Have you written a grant?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Well, we need to do that." Because there are various factors that, we want to keep it going. We would like to expand it. We have 3 people that are there to the tune of $6,600 a month. So there was a 4th that rotated in and out, but now it's just 3. We've helped 10 refugees since we started in February 2023. There are 16 family members associated with that. So that's about 26 people. Restores are independently owned stores, and they're operated by kind of under the auspices of Habitat. We are, to clarify the question that was asked, our relationship with Habitat is we manage independently. We have our own staff. We have our own finances, our own books. We make money by taking in donations from the community. We sell those donations, and then we give the unrestricted funds, pretty much everything extra, back to Habitat. They take that and they build houses for people in the community. They're income eligible. They're eligible by, whatever the other eligibility requirements are. So that's what we do. But what happened was it just kind of happened that Exodus, informal discussions with Jess Granum, the manager, was like, can you hire? So the answer was yeah. So that started happening, and some stay longer, some kind of go through and cycle through. You know, we provide a living wage. We help them with learning job skills. We help them with language acquisition. I speak to one gentleman in French, and I'm really bad at French, but he speaks French, and so we get through that way. And so our ask is for $35,000. It's to defray the cost of part of the wages. The wages total are $79,000 a year. And also it's about $12,000 worth of staff time. So there's 2 staff that work we estimated, because it's kind of hard to figure out, about 20% of their time. So the total program is $92,000. So we asked for $35,000. And you want to know why? Well, it just sounded like a good number. You know, I mean, it was, you know, it's hard to, I've been around Jack Hopkins a little bit, and if it's like you have to share the wealth. I mean, there's all these very deserving agencies that come in, and they all do great work. And, you know, we just talked it over, and it was like, that just seemed like it's about 1/3 the cost of the program. You're going to ask me what if we don't, you know, get the money, or, you know, we're going to
sitting here the whole time.
Yeah.
You got all my questions.
We're going to continue to do this, but it's going to make it a lot easier for us to do it. The sales have been a little bit lower now. I think it's because the economy and the inflation, something has changed. So sales at Restore is a little bit down. So we're a little worried about that. If possible, we could continue this. We could add more. We don't know where it's going, because honestly, we didn't plan it we didn't like structure it and then say, we'll go out and get money. It happened, and then we talked about it and said, oh my gosh, we actually have this program. Let's do that. What happens is it's a double-edged thing that's happening. If we're granted the Jack Hopkins funds, you're helping us defray the cost of employing the refugees who are coming, you know, from some unfortunate situation sometimes, and Exodus and others are helping them be here. It's great. So you're defraying that, but also what's happening is the more unrestricted funds we have, the more it's going to end up back with Habitat, and they're going to be able to build more houses. So, you know, I was just sitting thinking about it when I was preparing to come here, and I thought, you know, it's actually doing two good things with whatever funds we receive. So it's pretty great. And, you know, just, I will tell you, I volunteered there, and then I got hired there to get donations from people and schedule that. It's a fantastic, like, model for nonprofit. Really is. And they're building houses, they're building more. So it's a really great organization, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to advocate for, you know, to get some funds from Jack Hopkins.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So any other questions you
Councilmember
can.
Smith?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any questions? And then I'm going to ask my shocking question that he will not expect. So the Restore and Habitat are they not under the same umbrella organization?
Yes.
Okay, so why submit this as a collaborative one instead of submitting it just as Restore?
Actually, it's not it's not a collaborative one.
Okay, so
It's really not.
Because I noticed on the application you actually said yes and no on the, so that I figured that was a typo. But
Yeah, at the technical meeting I asked, and they said, no, it doesn't need to be. Cody cleared that up for me.
Good.
And when I checked the box, I forgot to uncheck it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's what happened.
Okay, that's good.
Because there was I realized there were other things that I needed to fill in if it was a collaborative project, and it's not.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was our big concern. And then as a follow-up to that, though, is thinking, even though you've not applied as a collaborative, this is a collaborative project with Exodus currently. Is that right?
Since there is no fiduciary relationship, I was just told no.
Got it. But because there's other refugee helping organizations, do you get like is the sourcing of the employees from Exodus pool of?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess because they're the only ones that came and approached the manager of the store.
Got it. Okay. Excellent.
It just kind of happened that way, and yeah.
Excellent.
So, since it's not a collaborative grant, Habitat actually applied for 2 grants then, correct? I mean, they applied for a truck.
I think they applied for a truck.
Yeah, so since...
And I don't know what happened to that one.
It's on here. We didn't have any questions about that one. But from my understanding is that, each organization can only apply for 1 grant unless the second grant's collaborative. The second grant, if the Restore Habitat grant wasn't collaborative in the first place, then I think we have to disallow one of the grants.
Well, or just consider them as one grant application.
Or yeah, I guess we could do that too. But I'm just bringing it up as a point of clarification, not for you to answer that question necessarily. But
okay.
Are you familiar with the other grant application as well?
Not.
Okay. Well, because I would have asked which do you care
All
for
I know
more?
is it's a truck, and if I'm going to advocate for one, I'm advocating for this one.
We did not invite them. But so, okay. All right. Any other questions?
Anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to see you around. Thank you. We miss you sometimes. Okay, next.
I miss sometimes.
No, you don't. All right. Our next organization is Susie's Place. And looking around the room, I assume that you're on Zoom.
I am on Zoom. It says I can't start my video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, give us a moment. We'll make you co-host.
Yeah,
the moment you've been waiting for, Lynn.
Give it a go now.
I've been thinking about what I'll do with that. Who can I add to the meeting? Just
I love that. Who can you let in? Did it work for you or no?
Should work now.
Ah,
yay!
Love it.
That was like a jump scare. Okay. I am Lynn Flynn. I'm the Associate Director of Susie's Place Child Advocacy Centers. And at first I was lamenting the fact that we came at the end of the alphabet, but I have to say getting to sit through all of these presentations and hearing about what's going on in Bloomington as far as helping the community has been awesome. So thank you for doing it in alphabetical order so that I could hear all of this. It's really, really interesting and really, really uplifting to hear what's going on. So thank you very much. And thank you for being patient with this process, as I know you guys are probably dying to get out of there.
No, not at all.
Susie's Place is a child advocacy center. So what we do, just in a nutshell, is assist in the investigation of child abuse and neglect. So when Department of Child Services or law enforcement receives a report of child abuse, the child comes to Susie's Place in order to get a forensic interview, which is essentially where the child tells what they've experienced. We have specially trained interviewers who do non-leading, age-appropriate interviews to find out the truth. We are completely unbiased, we are completely neutral. So our part of the investigation isn't trying to prove that anything happened, isn't trying to force any sort of disclosures. We truly just want to be a child-led, child-first opportunity for them to get out anything they need to talk about that makes them feel unsafe and uncomfortable. We also have an arm that does advocacy, because unfortunately you can't prosecute your way out of child abuse and stop the cycle that way. So our advocates really work on the healing and resilience. I saw the yawn. I'm sorry if I'm boring.
No, not at all.
No, it's my fault. So our advocates, they really work with anything the family needs. So they're going to help with mental health, medical appointments if need be. They're going to help with protective orders, anything from housing assistance, food assistance. Sometimes the reported perpetrator is the breadwinner of the family. So the family can really be in trouble financially if that person ends up getting arrested and goes to jail and goes through the criminal justice system. So we're there for those wraparound services to try to get them through that. And then the last portion that we do is prevention. What people don't know is that 95% of child abuse is preventable through education. So we go into schools and we also do seminars with adults, different workshops, so that we can help adults spot the signs of child abuse, learn how to react and report. We help the kids understand what a trusted adult is, so that if they are feeling unsafe or uncomfortable, they can go talk to a safe adult about it. And we talk to them about online safety, bullying, dating, and whatever is age appropriate for that class. So in a nutshell, that's what Susie's Place does. This grant was very specifically for our physical plant. Not operating funds or anything like that. The Bloomington Center has been open since 2011, and some of our furniture has been there since 2011. And we get a fair volume of kiddos through that center. It has historically been our busiest. We serve not just Bloomington and Monroe County, but also some of the surrounding counties there. Brown County comes through, Lawrence County, Monroe being the vast majority that come through that center specifically, but we just have some furniture needs that need updating. And that's the kind of thing that when we are trying to put our money toward direct service, toward helping kids, toward funding prevention, these are the kind of things that are really easy for us to ignore. But when you think about it, coming into our center really is the child's first step in the investigation of what's happening to them. So if they come in and they see that it looks stained or run down, that sets the tone for the entire investigation. I don't know if you guys have ever gone into like a hotel or a restaurant and it's looking dingy, and all of a sudden it could be the best food in the world, but your entire experience is tainted by the fact that it doesn't look welcoming, it doesn't look comfortable, it doesn't look safe. And we need to upgrade our center so that when those kids walk through the door, their first step in the investigation is nothing but positive. So that's why we're asking for money for a sectional, for some end tables, for some interview chairs, things like that, because we really provide excellent service for these kids, but our center no longer looks excellent. So we just need some help in that regard. I know one of your questions was about our legal name and some clarification on that. So our legal name is the Hendricks County Child Advocacy Center. That is because Emily Perry, who is our executive director and founder, started Susie's Place in Hendricks County. That was back in 2009, and her goal was to support Hendricks County and Hendricks County only. She was the one employee. She served 193 kiddos that year. But once law enforcement from around the state realized how valuable this service is, she was asked to expand. So Monroe County and Bloomington specifically asked for the 2011 opening, and then we moved into Terre Haute in 2017. So we have served over 17,000 reported child victims since 2009. Of those, 2,058 came specifically from the city of Bloomington. So since opening, we've served 2,058. So we go by the name of Susie's Place, but we have not legally changed our name for a couple of reasons. Number one, it kind of honors the fact that we thought this was going to be a one county, one person show. So it kind of honors where Susie's Place came from. But the other side of that is with our federal and state grant funds and our DUNS number and those kind of things, it becomes very tricky to go in and legally change your name.
Right.
So our busiest center is actually in Bloomington. We serve a lot of people from Bloomington, but the legal name still is the Hendricks County Child Advocacy Center. Any other questions or anything? I'm sorry, I took your line.
Thank you for bringing levity at the end of a harrowing presentation. I mean, I think it's it's shocking to hear the numbers of people that are needing your service to begin with, and just so grateful that this resource is here, and thank you for the work that you do. And well, I mean, as a sort of necessary follow-up, then it's I mean, I very much appreciate the the pitch for the for what's actually being asked for here. But as I've asked almost everybody else, like why not include operational funds? I mean, why not ask for more? I mean, I get why not ask for more within the the constraints of getting more furniture, right? Like there's limits to how much furniture you get, right? And I appreciate that you already have the quotes and all those things. But so I'm just asking, otherwise, is Susie's Place fully funded? Where does your funding come from? Those type of questions.
About 56% of our funding comes from federal and state grants.
Okay.
That includes Victims of Crime Act funds. It also includes a contract with Department of Child Services to provide forensic interviews for them 24/7. So that's where about a little over half of our funding comes from. The rest comes from non-government grants, from individual donations, corporate donations, things like that. The honest answer is that we try to be really, really good stewards of funds like the Jack Hopkins. We were very generously given Sophia Travis funds and things like that. So when it comes to trying to figure out our budget and where the money's going to come from, at the risk of sounding boastful, we've got it covered. As far as operational expenses, we are very focused on sustainability and things like that. And that's why furniture and things get pushed to the side.
Great.
Because our first priority is to maintain our direct services and to stay sustainable for years to come.
That makes sense.
Fortunately, the need for our services has not decreased.
I know that's a fortunate thing, but yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we all say we would like to work ourselves out of a job and end up at like Starbucks and be happy and caffeinated instead.
Right.
Yeah, for now, we're still super focused on funding direct service. So our operational costs, we have done the development and the fundraising and the grant writing and the contracts and things like that to cover it. This is really the need we see right now. And we also know, I mean, not to sound super giving or anything, we're not, but there are lots of other organizations who have gotten their federal funds cut already and are in a much more.
That was going to be my next question, is how are you seeing the federal landscape? I mean, in this regard, are there any concerns around long-term funding or any instability there?
If anybody said there weren't concerns, they'd be crazy. We are absolutely concerned, in our board of directors and our development team, which is me and one other person, so I use the word team loosely. We are super focused on decreasing that reliance on the federal and state funding. I can say 11 years ago when I started at Susie's Place, we relied on federal funds for 75% of our budget. So within the last 11 years, we've made a pretty drastic decrease, and we have a 3-year strategic plan to continue to decrease that so that we don't have to sacrifice services if the federal funding goes awry. But it's a concern for sure. So if we show up next year and we're like, we need operational funds, you'll know why.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, could I just ask a follow-up? Pretty shocking numbers. You're anticipating 104 children in Bloomington needing your services this coming year. You mentioned 2,058 in a duration of what? How long a time is that?
Since 2009.
Since 2009?
We opened in 2011. We still served Bloomington kiddos who drove up to the Hendricks County location. So it's been 2009 since then.
And I was curious about how many clients are repeat clients that you've seen and you see again and you might see again. Is that a substantial number, or are these more or less, are they all separate and individual?
We tend to see about 20% of the kiddos that we have seen one time, a second or third time.
Wow.
So there are some repeats. Sometimes it's because their disclosure is a process. So if we have kiddos come in and they're not ready to talk about what's happening, law enforcement and Department of Child Services simply don't have enough. There's very rarely evidence in these cases. It's not like what you see on Law and Order SVU where they go and they take all the clothes and there's evidence and they get to prove it within an hour. That doesn't happen in the real world. So sometimes it takes kids multiple interviews for them to truly feel comfortable enough to tell us. Other times kids unfortunately fall victim to multiple abusers or multiple abuse instances. So we may see a kiddo for physical abuse who then may at some point be sexually assaulted, and we'll see that kiddo again.
So about 20% are in this cycle
Yes.
of violence and
Yep.
abuse.
Yes, and about 80% are new.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a broader question? And so appreciative that you stayed this long. But what other things can we do as a city government, as a city council, to, in the broader sense? I mean, because I think all of us are. I mean, maybe you who work in these agencies were more familiar with this, but I mean, I'm sure I speak for the rest of us how shocking just the occurrence of this is in Bloomington. Like, what can we do as a council, as a city government, to address this better?
That's a great question. The one thing that we're super focused on right now as far as just community work is to spread the awareness, because I think people are shocked at how often it happens. And I can tell you Indiana is terrible when it comes to reports of abuse. There's 215,000 child abuse reports a year in the state of Indiana. We're number 2 in the nation as far as reports go. That's a blessing and a curse, because it does mean that people are calling in reports to DCS, which is what you want. But they also say, I mean, that's only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how many kids may truly be suffering from child abuse, because so much of it still goes unreported. So one of the things we're really trying to work on is community awareness. So we are giving a couple of talks this April, just because we've been invited to in Hendricks County, about things like sextortion, which is a huge online abuse problem that we're seeing in all of our counties right now. Any sort of opportunity to bring a community group together to talk about protecting kids from online threats, talk about protecting kids as far as like trusted adults and understanding who to report to, all of those things. If we were given an opportunity to talk to people in your community, we would take it in a heartbeat. Name the day, name the time, and we'll come out, because the education really is the key. And it's really hard when people are so busy, they don't have time to come to a 6 o'clock seminar on child abuse and things like that. But ultimately, that is the key to stopping the cycle, is to get everybody to realize what abuse looks like, what to do if you think you see it, how to report it, and then how to move forward and how to heal.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
We have time, report time at council meetings.
Yeah.
City council meetings. We'd love to have you
Yeah.
join us and broadcast this to raise awareness.
Exactly.
We would love to do that. Absolutely. You guys have all of my information, so
Yeah,
even if
thank you,
this
Lynn.
grant doesn't come through, please reach out. I would love to come out and talk about any part of it.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank
I'd
you.
love that.
Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I was wondering about the referral, if it's during the prosecutor process, like somebody getting arrested or a report. How does that happen for the kids that end up, you end up facilitating this way?
I'm sorry, only part of that came through.
The
so I
referrals, how do you get the kids that tend to be of service or given
Yeah.
service through your organization?
It has to be an active investigation through the Department of Child Services or through law enforcement. So if there's a report to DCS hotline about child abuse, they will start an investigation by going out, they see the kid, make sure it's not an emergency that requires hospitalization or anything like that, and then they call us and schedule the interview. And the same is true with law enforcement. They don't talk to the kiddos about what may or may not be happening until the kiddo comes to Susie's place. And then we have one forensic interviewer who will interview the kiddo, who's highly trained just to do that one job. The Department of Child Services, the prosecutors, and law enforcement watch in another room via closed circuit television, so that there's one trauma-reducing interview. So it's not a bunch of different people asking a bunch of questions, but it's comprehensive, so that if law enforcement or Department of Child Services need additional information, they can feed those questions to our interviewer, and our interviewer asks. That way the kiddo is not inundated with multiple people and afraid of seeing some detective show up with a badge and a sidearm and suddenly they're too afraid to speak. We make sure we do the one comprehensive interview with those people present, but they bring the cases to us.
What makes your facility safe for children?
We're nationally accredited through the National Children's Alliance. One of the requirements is to make sure that it is child safe. So we do everything from basic child safety things like child safety locks and making sure everything's tethered to the wall so nothing can fall over. So there's actual physical safety there. We also make sure that all of our people are extremely well trained in order to work with kids. We work with kids that have developmental differences. So we're trained in that regard too, to make sure it's safe for any kiddo that comes in, whether they have hearing differences, whether they may be on the spectrum or something like that. We're trained on all of that. The perpetrator is never allowed in our building. We have law enforcement in all of our cases, and if a perpetrator were to show up, they would be escorted out, if not arrested. We have everything from alarms and emergency sounders and all these different things to make sure that if anything were to run amok, we would be able to safely protect those kiddos. But our goal truly is to keep that child as number one. So it's as simple as if we get a kiddo who is so traumatized they cannot talk about it, we're gonna stop the interview. We're gonna make sure that they have to be ready, because almost like the medical field, our goal is to first do no harm. So if we have a child who comes in who is just not ready to speak, who is terrified, we're gonna do whatever we can to try and get them comfortable. And if that means we don't do the interview until they've spent some time working with a mental health counselor or something like that, then that's what we're gonna do.
So priorities the safety of the child and not necessarily information that is needed for prosecution.
100% the safety of the child is our first priority. We are completely neutral. So if the child gives us enough information that assists in the investigation and it goes through the criminal justice system, that's great, because that means a reported perpetrator's off the streets. But if that is gonna do more harm for that kiddo, and if they can be safe without having to push or without having to traumatize them, then that's what we're gonna do. The child is number one at all times at Susie's Place.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for taking the time to be here and for all the work that Susie Place does. Thank you.
Thank you guys. We're having an open house tomorrow from 4 to 6:30 in Bloomington if you want to come to show off our new medical suite. So
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you guys have a good night.
You too. Good night. Well, we have one more presentation, and Julie, you have been here since the beginning, so we will now make you co-host. And you can blow us away with the final presentation.
You're here.
Okay, here I am. Okay, so let me just pull up my notes. Thank you all for your patience. So Tandem is a hub for perinatal resources and support and serves hundreds of families in our community every year. Tandem employs 8 postpartum doulas. A postpartum doula is a trained professional who provides practical, emotional, and informational support to families in the weeks and months following childbirth. They assist and guide the whole family through the transition to parenthood and support wellness and healing. Postpartum doulas have been shown to be a strong protective factor against perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, which impact at least 1 in 5 birthing parents. Tandem is requesting this grant for our postpartum doula equity program. This program allows access for the families who are most likely to be affected by postpartum mood disorders and poor outcomes up to and including maternal and infant mortality. Some of these families are rural or lack transportation and therefore can best access this care as a home-based service. Others live in temporary, unsafe, or overcrowded housing and prefer to receive this care at Tandem. Either option allows our postpartum doulas to provide education, resources, and support to the families. Our clients report that Tandem's postpartum doulas provide support that dramatically changes their parenting experience for the better and can be life-saving for those who struggle the most. We disproportionately serve families that are queer, families of color, and low-income households. These families are at higher risk of negative outcomes from birth and postpartum and require more community support while having less access to resources to receive that support. The postpartum doula equity program allows families that have no budget for such a support system to get this service for free or reduced rate from Tandem. And I don't know if you can see behind me the stacks of diapers in my living room, but on April 1st, Tandem adopted the Who's Your Diaper program. And since that adoption this month, we have increased the number of families served by all of our programming by over 200 a month. Our door has not stopped opening, and when families come in to receive diapers, they're learning about all of our other services available, including our doulas. Our doulas then assist them by helping connect them to resources, gathering materials, sometimes providing transportation assistance, and doing safety and caretaking education. Contracting with SCAP, WonderLab, and the Monroe County government last year to provide doula services as an employee benefit has allowed us to make our doula services more accessible to more families, but our equity program is still essential for many in our community. And yes, we're talking to City of Bloomington HR. Your support will directly fund these essential services for at least 200 unique at-risk families in our community in 2025 through our postpartum doula equity program. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, but first, other committee members, questions? So I didn't quite understand so you're asking for 6,000. I didn't understand why the 6,000. I also didn't understand what the total cost of the project was. Like, and it all didn't. I just didn't understand it. Like, you know, what I get the project, but I didn't understand the costing of the project.
Yeah, so it's primarily about staffing the doulas in order to provide services for clients who are unable to pay. So the equity program has grown year over year, that we actually expect this year to be to land in a similar range to last year. So we're estimating for 6 months of running postpartum doula equity for the 7 counties we serve to be about $1,500, primarily in postpartum doula hours. And then, but then if we say, you know, a portion of that is not what you're interested in, right? You want City of Bloomington residents, then.
But I'm more interested in like are we saying the 26,000 overall cost, that is money, that is the cost for the doula. It's to pay for doula services for 480 residents.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and that's the overall. So that 480 number is the overall is the overall cost of is the overall impact of the doula equity program.
Yes. And there will be differences in what clients receive. So some clients are going to be having those. You know, a doula for their family who's coming regularly to their home to provide in-home support. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the smaller volume and the highest impact. Right. This is where we have had multiple families come in and say, this was life-saving. Mm-hmm. We had a client tell us, my children have a mother because you were here. Mm-hmm. And so that's very high impact. But we have also learned that having our open hours and having the doulas there and able to provide access to someone who drops in and says, I need diapers and wipes, and now they're able to talk to a doula. We're building relationships. They might come in regularly for those diapers and wipes, for baby clothes, for other things, and initially they don't talk to us. They're just, many of them don't trust the system at all, of any system, any organization. Right. They're just coming and getting the free supplies. They come back, and finally they disclose partner abuse, housing issues, food insecurity. You know, we call our free room our gateway drug for how we connect and build real relationships with families. Yeah. And so having those postpartum doulas on staff who are answering questions on everything from feeding and you know, my potty training and naps and you know, jealous older siblings with new babies, and you know, is this normal when my baby does this? Do I need to go to the doctor? We have many times had clients who will come in and say, that they are worried about this or that, but they're distrustful of the medical system, and they might be worried about their own healing, or they might be worried about something with the newborn. And so having our staff there who are very well trained in what is normal healing and recovery, and being able, sometimes we've called clinician offices with them to say, you know what, I think it would be really great to talk to your pediatrician about this. Let's call together. I'll help, translate the medical mumbo jumbo, and our doulas have gone with our clients to appointments. We've gone with our clients to the grocery store when they're just feeling overwhelmed with being able to manage that. We have a van that we can use to transport families for all kinds of purposes. So building those relationships, I had the opportunity to directly provide transportation to a teen mother recently who just felt, there are so few resources available to her, and came to Tandem and was just blown away that we could help with all of these things, and she could come back and she could bring her baby and be with other families and other moms and connect. And she was feeling very, very alone, so.
That's awesome. Thank you. Other
Thank
questions?
you all. Thank you for staying on so late.
Wait, we might have other questions. Other questions. There. Okay, I had one last question, which is, I'm just, full disclosure, it's such, my wife has benefited tremendously from Tandem, and I know it's a huge community, and my children have, for that matter, and so just so grateful for all the work that you do. But knowing that this is a grant that prioritizes, investments in like physical infrastructure and those type of things, and knowing that you're still trying to do a build out of a lot of the, like, why didn't you ask for money for birthing rooms?
Yes, part of it is the timing, and we're hoping to have the rooms, well, not for the birthing rooms, for the postpartum rooms to be done, those renovations to be done before the Hopkins money is distributed.
Got it.
That renovation we're doing right now, and we didn't want to risk holding the construction for funding that wasn't guaranteed. So that's a timing component. And like our birthing rooms, the construction is done in them, except for that we don't have furniture. We don't have furniture or staff at the moment for those rooms. For the medical side of things, and that's sort of a much longer story and conversation. But we'd asked Hopkins before for furniture for the rooms and not gotten it, so we decided not to come back with that.
Okay.
With furniture. And I will say we're working very, very hard to make postpartum doula equity sustainable.
Yep.
And we've done that through our partnerships with employers to create these employee benefit plans so that clients who might otherwise have tapped into the equity program can access our services for free. And previously, postpartum doula equity was funded last year by the 100 Plus Women Who Care, and the year before by the Per Sisterhood Workshop. So we expect to continue to require some degree of funding for it, but I do think just seeing this year versus last year, we're getting closer to that being sustained by some of our other revenue sources. And I also just want to credit the Jack Hopkins Committee. You are why we exist. Our first real grant was Jack Hopkins in 2021, and without you, we would not be here. We have grown. I mean, I have 15 employees now versus 0 employees then. I have a building with a 10-year lease versus no building then. And the impact is just increasing every single day, and I have people telling me every day how important our services are to them. So no other funder would have trusted us if we hadn't gotten that initial start from Hopkins. So thank you.
And so my final question on the back of that answer, which is that why didn't you ask for $28,000 if that was the full cost of the project?
Because it's just 6 months that you fund, really.
Yep.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure we were considering those funds just for Bloomington clients.
Okay, okay, excellent. Thank you, Julie. Yay! Yay! Everyone, we did it. Now. Thank you. Okay, handful of reminders before we adjourn. First thing is that you all must get your rubrics done by the 30th, which is next Wednesday, and send those to Sam. Sam has sent you all a Google sheet. Now everybody has them. Just work on that sheet. Keep them all in alphabetical order. That will help Sam a lot. Fill them out to the best of your ability and send those to Sam so that for our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from now, that will be our long meeting to actually discuss allocations. At least what we would like to recommend as allocations can proceed. Okay. There's still space. You can change. We can change things collectively at that meeting when we're all together. But please do the homework. Okay, ahead of time. Any other reminders?
That was it. Yeah, just Wednesday the 30th, so I have time to put all the numbers together. If for whatever reason you can't access the link that you got in your emails, just let me know. And also, field any other questions about that document to me, and I'm happy to help.
If you're able to go to Cam's event on Friday, please do. They're doing a pseudo Jack Hopkins thing, and it would be really cool if the real deal was there to help the pseudo group. Other than that, thank you all for your incredible service to the city and this community. Whoopee. We're adjourned.